Good evening and welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to number 23 of the open mic. Glad everyone could join us today and be a part of another conversation. We're going to wrap up a little bit of what we started on some of the Brady violations. We did a couple episodes on that, and one of those we spent a little bit of time talking about these various witnesses, and one of those witnesses was Denise Heidel. You know what? Before I get to that, let's let everybody here say hello. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I apologize. Let's get back over here. There we go. We got several here on the chat with us, so I'll just go down the list. Everybody say howdy. Alice.
Howdy.
BB.
Hey, everyone.
Jinxie. Didn't hear you, Jinx. You got to speak louder than that.
What? You can't hear me. That's
there.
Not good.
Now I can hear you. Susan?
Hi, everybody.
How you feeling?
Much better, thank you.
Good. Dove?
Good evening, everybody.
Sammy.
Hi there, how are ya?
Okay. Anyway, let's get moving on. Like I said, we started talking about these various Brady violations and the various people that have written affidavits for Kathleen Zellner. So after the last episode, Jinx actually had found the connection. The Denise Coakley is now Denise Heidel, and I had actually, if I knew it, I forgot it. But nonetheless, it's the same person. So Denise Coakley called on November 8th, I think it was, and to Calumet County, and she made a report about Teresa. Now, before we get too far into that, I'm going to pull up a little information here and share with you about a DCI report. And actually, it's a DCI report and also a FOIA that one of our FOIA warriors has gotten shared with us. They said they didn't want to be identified, so I'm going to honor that request and just say that it's been provided. And I didn't have time to get the link into the description, but I will. I know it's been added to the Foul Play library, so it'll be available for you to download. And what this concerns first is the Kathy Williford information about when she actually came to the Avery salvage yard. There was, a lot of conversation and talk because, she's a former DCI agent. So I wanted to get that out of the way first before I got too involved with this call. So that should be popped in here. Let me get back over here. So this DCI report on Kathy Williford, this is like page. It looks like page 7. This is a DCI report 226, and this is Bassbender has gone over to Auto Trader, and he's talking to Angela Schuster. It's quite lengthy here, and I'm not going to go through all of it. And you can see that part of it got underlined, but they're talking about the various photographers and who all's been out to the Averys and so forth and so on. And so what I wanted to kind of highlight here is this section here, and you can see what I've got underlined. I'll go back just a little bit prior to that. They were looking for paperwork for the Hallbacher Williford photo shoots done for any last names of Avery, Janda, or Dassey. They did not find any shoots for Avery, Janda, or Dassey associated with the Hallbach. They did find one shoot for Stephen Avery on Tuesday, January 25th, 2005, done by Williford. So I think it's a little interesting that they couldn't find any others. I'm not an expert on this, but I do recall that there were other people besides Avery, Stephen Avery, that had photo sheets done by Auto Trader, and I want to say it was Tom. Was it Janda or was it Dassey? I don't know. I just know that there were other people that had cars advertised in the Auto Trader magazine, and so I'm a little surprised that they didn't find any other records. At least that's the report that I remember. So anyway, moving from this, we didn't have this report here until recently. This is one of the newer ones that Rookie and yours got. So, but this directly says that they did find a report. So our FOIA warrior that actually sent in and got this FOIA, which is, did I open it here? Let's see. Well, did I open the stupid thing or not? If I didn't, I will. I apologize. I've got a bunch of open records here. Okay, it looks like I didn't open it, but I will. This FOIA is from Kathy. It's actually from Auto Trader, and let me get down to it here. And it's not that long. But it does show the initials. It does show, it's a record showing that someone with the initials of KW did go to Auto Trader and take a photograph of this, I guess, 1984 Monte Carlo. That should pop in there. Yeah, there it is. Anyway, you can see in the upper left up there where it says photo ID at the very top, it says KW. And then it gives the date over there, 125. And there's really not a whole lot more information to it, but it does confirm that she was there. So there was always kind of a question before we got this, having something in a report that says that it did happen, and actually having this Auto Trader, this confirms it, that she was there. I still have a lot of problems accepting the fact that, she left a career at the DCI to do, part-time work for this, Auto Trader magazine. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't add up for me. So
I had pulled some stuff on Kathy Williford because I was one of the ones who was like, yeah, so you said you were there. Prove it. I want to see it. I got to see the visual aid. And so when I saw this record, I was it was first the DCI record that mentioned her that we hadn't seen, that was released by Rookie and yours.
Yep.
And then this kind of just confirms it. And the thing with Janda and them, and I think what really happened was kind of similar to what happened with George Zipper. I looked for Stephen Avery's. There's a call. I don't know which one it is now. I think it's 656 or something like that, where he's talking to one of his friends, and he explains how Auto Trader saw an ad in the paper and called him, and that's how he got hooked up with Auto Trader. And the very first ad that I was able to find was for this Monte Carlo, but it was under car parts. It wasn't under autos for sale. So I was, of course that starts, well, why is it car parts? Do they do car parts? Did he sell a car? Was it just part of a car? Right?
right.
So then then this confirms, and it was in January of 2005, that ad, and she goes in January of 2005. As for the other people on the yard, like Janda did have an appointment on September 19th, but I think what happened was Avery was really the first one to start using this magazine. They called him. He had an ad in the paper. The number on the paper was his cell phone number. He made an account with his cell phone. One thing I noticed also on this Kathy Williford, the account number has changed. So that was they did say that after 6 or 8 weeks, they'll put them kind of out of the system and they'll get new account numbers when they come back, I guess, right? So
that's interesting. Wow. That's kind of weird.
It was something to that effect. And I was like, well, that is weird. It was only it's less than 6 months since he used it. And then he wasn't using it in the middle of the winter and spring when it's rainy. So that's kind of expected, right? In Wisconsin.
You would think, yeah.
But no, so I saw that little difference. But with Tom Janda, when he called in to do his appointment, I think what he was trying to do was put it under Avery's account because he knew Avery had an account there. And
Possible.
there's something that happened in trial too. Like Tom Janda's appointment has Stephen Avery's home phone number as his telephone number, not
Yep.
Janda's.
Right.
And not Janda's cell phone. It's actually Avery's home phone. So
Which
I think
shouldn't have been there.
He was probably putting it in Avery's account and thought it would go to his number and probably gave the home number instead of the cell phone number. So then that becomes its own account. Now Tom Janda has his own account. Then when Stephen Avery calls on the 31st and says it's for B Janda, and they can't find no B Janda, and they couldn't find the number was B Janda's, was Tom Janda's. There was no number associated with any account for Tom Janda for his home phone number. It was for Avery's
Right.
home phone number. So I think they were just I think it was Avery who started it, and I think it all started just like, and another thing I'd like to point out is, if that is the case, Kathy Williford quit her job in the 90s. Okay, like probably shortly after she had her, I think it was like she says to convicting. There's a little thing on the convicting Twitter about she quit her job to raise her family, which women do that sometimes.
Sure.
So she and her kids had now been a little older, and she felt confident that she could leave them in school and have her own hour type of job, and that would be perfect. This job is perfect for a stay-at-home mom, right? Like, I think it would be perfect.
Sure.
Create your own hours. And I think she saw an opportunity here. I don't think she was she started working for Auto Trader before Avery was even a customer, or before Avery even put an ad in the paper. So I don't think she's sent there by the DCI to spy on Avery for one whole first appointment that they mysteriously knew he was going to place an ad and the telemarketers were going to call him and then they were going to make this appointment. And yes, Kathy would be working there at the time. I don't see that happening either. So I think she saw an opportunity like Deb Strauss. Oh shit, I did take a picture of this guy. And oh shit, I can get back in the good graces. Maybe she was hoping to get back in the good graces of the DCI by helping out this case, or just feeling like she was part of a case again, like she did in her career in her early days.
Possibly. I don't know. It's just, people do leave careers. I get that. And I can't completely disagree with what you're saying. But it just comes across as.
And I do think because she is ex-DCI, she was going to be easier to manipulate. If she were to take the stand, she would be like the Teresa Halbach person, like she worked
sure.
there.
Oh,
and
sure.
She's the one that's saying he's creepy, he invited her in. Those things were all said by Kathy Williford and not necessarily
Teresa
Halbach.
Right. Well, and it could have been a chance for, I'm sure she's well aware of the case. And, I don't know. Again, I can't say one way or the other. I just, like so many other places in this, I don't want to create no conspiracy where none exists, but it's just got this odd feeling to it, kind of like the zipper situation. Something just doesn't quite add up. Maybe it is coincidental, but I'm just not a huge believer in this kind of coincidence. That's just me. Sammy, looks like you got a couple questions there. You want to get those out of the way? Sammy here. Looks like somebody's.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, ask me again.
Yeah, looks like you had a question that got asked or something, a comment?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the Londoner said I heard a call earlier where the cops are discussing reports Halbach had been the next resident, but they didn't have time yet. Remacher and Wiegert discussed in a call Teresa going to the zippers after Avery's, but they have no time. And then Robin McDonald is asking, where was Tom Janda during all of this? And I can't answer either of those questions because I'm not for sure.
Well, there was a call between Remacher and Wiegert, and they're talking about this is pretty early on, they're talking about this timeline that we played. I don't know if we played it last week or week before, but, they're talking about, we think she went to the Smiths, and then she went to Avery's, then she went to the Zippers. And that's how they originally had it lined up.
I remember that. I do remember the calls. Yeah.
And then, of course, that got changed later. But, you know, we talked about that. Jinx, you remember it. We talked about that. And I mean, honestly, I guess I could
You can
be
go back like 2 episodes of Open Mic,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
discussed all of that stuff with
Yeah.
George Zipper as a possible Denny suspect, as I think
Yeah.
it was under that.
Yeah, that's correct.
And as for the Tom Janda question, Tom Janda and Barb, they filed for divorce. I think it was like October 7th or something like that.
Yeah, he moved-
2005. So
he
he
moved-
had been
he-
moving out. Yeah,
He moved out like early October 7th or 10th or something. As best I remember, it was around that time.
Yeah, it was pretty early October, not long
Yeah.
after his appointment with Auto Trader. Really, if it was September 19th, and
Right.
not even a month later, he was.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously something else was already going on. You know, issues between Barb and Janda.
And
So
maybe that's why he tried to put it in Steven's account. When he sold the cars or whatever, the 2 cars he had,
possible, very possible.
because he wasn't going to be there very long.
Okay. Any other questions or comments that you can see in the chat, Sammy, or anybody else actually
Yeah.
here in the?
Well, the Londoner, Sean Maroney, had responded to him in the chat, but he said, Sean, it's not just the timing. The last person to see her alive said she left for the zippers. All focus then goes on verifying this. Surely? Really? I mean, they're like, surely they verified it. Well, Londoner, I'm going to tell you right now, if they did, there was absolutely nothing in Stephen's favor showing that they did.
No.
They stopped with the zippers as soon as found, other than going back the day after the car was found on Avery's yard to apparently grab a copy of the zipper voicemail, and that's also missing. So yeah, no verification.
It's been disappeared.
Yeah.
JD asked, is Tom Yanda old looking?
There is a picture of Tom Yanda with Stephen Avery. You may have seen it somewhere. I believe it's Tom Yanda. He's much taller than Stephen Avery. He's got dark hair. And he's like wrapped up in cellophane with him back to back. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah.
But I believe
Bubble
that's,
wrap, like,
bubble wrap or something like that.
No,
They're playing around.
yeah, pallet wrap, yeah.
And they're
Pallet
playing
wrap.
around, and it has to be sometime after Stephen Avery was released from prison in 2003, and before he was. So at the
Rearrested.
time, I would say he looked just like a tall, dark-haired, maybe 40-year-old man, 35-year-old man. I don't know.
And Robin McDonald had asked, is he 6 feet tall? So, that goes with the old looking too.
I haven't
Well,
seen
he
that
was
picture in
very
for
tall.
forever. I haven't seen that
I
picture in
wonder
a
if I
long
can
time.
find it. Let me find it. Let's see if I can find it.
Alien Robot Ghost has joined us in the chat. You have a question or comment?
I don't. I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay. Well,
It's a great conversation.
Well, it's interesting. It's like all these, so many different areas of the case. We think there's something, maybe there is something, but we try to close these rabbit holes because there's so many of them, and I don't like going to them really. But this was one that was a little odd, and the FOIA that we just recently got, and it helps confirm that that Kathy Williford did make that appointment. It's confirmed. I'm less trusting of what's in a report because. The cops are controlled. They write the report so they can put in there whatever they want.
Right.
He's also going to be in the show Convicting. There is like a little thing on their site, on their Twitter, where she's like, "It could have been me." Wah.
Yeah, crying. Yep.
Yeah, me. I want attention too.
Yeah. True enough. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that if there's nothing else, I'm going to move on to the next thing, and this is also closing up. I mentioned Denise Coakley, Denise Heitel, that we talked about, and the Brady conversation that we had. Let me get this pulled up here. Yeah, okay, there's that one. First, I'll open up the PDF file for the DCI report.
I do have somebody asking, Jay is asking in Bobby's bedroom, there's a pic with a green pickup truck on the mirror. Was that Yanda's truck?
Can't answer that. I do not know. Possibly. I think I do remember that. But I really can't remember. I'm not even sure.
I don't recall ever looking into that myself either.
Yeah, I think I remember the photo, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't think I ever dove off into that rabbit hole. I don't know. Possibly.
I don't either.
So, okay. No. Anyway, going back to Denise Coakley. So she wrote an affidavit for, as I said earlier, for Kathleen Zellner, and we had that, and I read part of it in one of our broadcasts, where she basically is detailing that she was talking. She called, or that her and Teresa were, I don't remember who called who, but regardless of the fact, she said that Teresa pulled over to write down her information on her whatever. We said we can think it's the day planner. This is open for debate, whether you believe that that's exactly what happened or not. But nonetheless, she did write the affidavit. But it's interesting that Denise Heidel did make a call into Calumet County Sheriff's Dispatch, and we have that recording. It's the one that Jinx tweeted last week. It's on the clip hits that, or clips, whatever you want to call it, that Rookie had posted some long ago. It's been up for a long time. And anyway, I'll go through this report here just very quickly. Basically, she called in on November 8th. And as you can see, I've got highlighted in green up there. They didn't talk to her until right before trial, February 1st, 2007, which is a little weird, I think. I mean, you would have thought that they would have talked to her prior, but let me pull this recording up and we'll listen to it, then I'll read this right here. Let me close that. Gotta love technology. Anybody here that's in the channel, if you have YouTube muted, you will have to unmute it, or you will not be able to hear the call. It's not that long, so we don't have to listen to a lot. But and by the way, I've linked everything in the description that I'm going to be talking about today, except for, again, that very first FOIA that I talked about, but I'll get it added. So anyway, I'm going to play this right quick if everybody's unmuted and ready. Here we go.
County Sheriff's permit?
Yes. I was given this number for John Beering.
Beering? Okay, he's out of the office. What do you need?
I had talked to the photographer, Teresa, on Monday morning at 11:35. I just talked to her business associate, Tom Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
And he just asked me to go ahead and let you guys know, so because you're trying to put a timeline together.
Okay. I'll switch you to his office.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, that's the end of the call. It gets switched back to Wegerton, but we don't have that part of the conversation, which is not. It's not surprising. That happens a lot. Actually, it happens more often than not with any calls that go to them. They get connected back to another office, and we don't get to hear the rest of the call. So that's not surprising. So,
But we got to with Tom when he got transferred to Lemieux. So I
Yeah.
know they can still give that information.
Sure,
They just
sure.
didn't.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So anyway, the PDF files pop back in there. So again, remember, this is February 1st, 2007. And I'll read this out here. on 2/1/2007 at 10:45 a.m. Special Agent Hammerall made personal contact with the subject, who verbally identified herself as Denise W. Coakley, and resides at Woodgate Trail, Green Bay. Got her home and cell phone. The interview was conducted at Coakley's place of employment at the Austin Strandbell Airport in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Special Agent Hammerall identified himself to Coakley verbally and displayed his credentials. Hammerall then asked Coakley if she was familiar with the investigation involving the disappearance and death of Teresa Halbach. Coakley stated that she was, and provided the following information. In September of 2005, Coakley hired Teresa Halbach to take photographs of Coakley's son Robert for his high school senior portraits. Coakley hired Halbach through Halbach's portrait studio. Coakley met Teresa Halbach on the date of the photo shoot at her studio in Green Bay. Sometime after that date, Coakley received a call from Teresa Halbach, who informed Coakley that the portrait proofs were ready for Coakley to pick up. On October 31st, 2005, at a time Coakley believed to be around 11 a.m., Coakley called Teresa Halbach on Halbach's cell phone to schedule a time for Coakley to pick up the proofs at Halbach's studio. Coakley stated that she called Halbach from her cell phone, which at the time was, and you see it there, when Halbach answered the phone, Halbach stated that she was driving and needed to pull over on the side of the road so that she could write the appointment time down so she didn't forget it. Halbach told Coakley that she was on her way to an appointment. However, Halbach did not say where the appointment was or where Halbach was at the time of this call. Coakley stated that the appointment was made for the following date. On the following date, Coakley went to the Halbach studio for the appointment, which we have derived was November 1st, which she believed was at 12 p.m. Coakley met with Halbach's associate at the studio, who she described as an older male named Tim or Tom. Coakley waited for Halbach for approximately a half an hour, and Halbach did not arrive. Coakley stated that neither she nor Halbach's associate tried to call Halbach to inquire about her absence. Coakley stated that Halbach's associate eventually found the proofs and gave them to Coakley. Coakley stated that within the next few days, she saw the news about Halbach's disappearance and realized that this was the same Teresa Halbach who she had spoken with on 10/31/2005. Coakley stated that she immediately returned to Halbach's studio to order the final prints from the proofs and dealt with Halbach's associate. She stated that the associate told her that it was Teresa's failure to meet Coakley on 10/31/2005 that prompted him to contact Teresa's parents and inquire about her not being at work. So there. She states on February 1st, 2007, that Teresa was driving and told her she had to pull over. So that's pretty interesting.
I find it interesting that she calls there the 8th of November, just shortly after they find the car. They don't bother to call her back or get any information from her until the trial. If you look in the discovery files that we do have access to, this record was not given to the defense. And then I find it interesting that even after, I don't know if Kathleen Zellner has seen this report or not, because we know she didn't see some of the newer stuff added, like the bones.
Well, she probably has by now, but at
But
the
that
time
all
when
depends on if they ever sent it to the defense. If it was so close to trial, they got their win. Did they ever send it to the defense trial lawyers? Probably not. So
probably not.
what about the appeal lawyers, or did they just go on what was already given to them by the trial lawyers that they didn't have it either? I'm curious now.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how the process works, but my understanding that stuff goes from the trial lawyers to the appellate lawyers, and then that Hagopian, she ended her part with it, and it moved on to the other lawyers, and it which as far as we know,
boxes in Sandy's basement that Kathleen Zellner eventually got from her. From what I understand, that's how she got the records from Stephen.
Well,
so she got the record in those boxes.
Well, she got files from Hagopian. She did get files from Hagopian.
From the other lawyer. All right.
Yeah, because I doubt that they would release them without it going to another lawyer. So, but regardless of the fact, she states here, this is report 349, and it's on, you can see when it was written there, 2002, February 1st. She wrote it on her
there
day.
is no change from.
Does that mean that she wrote it in
now.
on her day planner? Or did she write it down on a note? She put it in her Palm Pilot? We don't know.
Well, we all know that she did put Coakley's name on the day planner for 12
That's right.
p.m. on November 1st. So
That's right.
It is most likely that is where she wrote it down. Whether or not she was in her car at the time is a question from, being she was at her computer part of that time too.
Yeah.
But her story doesn't really change. She said she went from 11:35 to 11 o'clock, but she knew exactly when she talked to her in the call. She said 11:35 in the call when she called her, and that was the time that Teresa had called her back. So, and her story barely changes. It's still the same story it was in 2007 that it is now in 2017, 10 years later, no real big changes, which I have a problem with people who change their stories.
Sapricot brought up a good point there. Sapricot brought up a good point. He says not just driving, but on her way to an appointment. So not just running errands. So that's very specific. That's a good point.
But what I think she meant is she was getting ready for her appointments because she was still sitting at her desk at 11:40 for appointments because she was still sitting at her desk at 11:40 printing out and mapping out her route from Schmidt's to Zipper's house. So I have a hard time believing she was in the car. However, that doesn't mean it wasn't ever in the car, the day planner.
But what about what? I mean, she made this statement back in she made this statement years ago. This is not new. So I don't know, man. It just raises questions for me. Anybody else? Evie, Sapricot, you need to get on here too, man.
I think there's a reason they hit it too, is because it shows that it was possible, that they could have made that same link that Kathleen Zellner did, where, if she was in her car when she wrote this down on the day planner, it was in her car at some point. So how did it get from her car when she's on her way to her appointments to the possession of what ends up being Scott Blodorn, who had possession of it first?
Or she actually made it home.
So it's possible she made it home, and it's possible that she didn't make it home and somebody took the stuff, the killer took the stuff from the car. There's two different possibilities there. But either one puts the day planner back at her house and not in Stephen Avery's house. So that's a very big
or not in the RAV. That's the main thing. It's not in the RAV.
And it's not at Stephen Avery's. So where did it get from the RAV?
Alice, you have a comment?
And it's not found in the paperwork found on the side of the road.
They never did find her paperwork, from what I understand.
They claimed they had paperwork that came from her RAV and that phone that they found on the side of the road.
Alice?
No, everybody stole my words, Jax. It's not fair.
Well, you can tell these tossers, you can tell. That's okay.
No, I'm sure we didn't steal your exact words.
No.
No.
Not a chance.
Exact words, but everything I was thinking, Jensen BB bet me to it.
Susan?
I'm just wondering if it's possible that maybe either the computer or the printer, that the time was wrong on it. That didn't go back forward.
You would, not everybody sets their, back then Windows was a little bit different and not everybody had their computer to automatically update to daylight savings time. It's possible, I guess. But, I'm just, because she did say the words in this report in 2007 that Teresa said she had to pull over, that raises a lot of questions for me. And,
I can't imagine that she would say that when it wasn't the case.
Especially not. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That was exactly my point I was about to make, is why would she be sitting at a computer but then tell somebody she's talking to on the phone that she's driving and has to pull over? There would be no reason to say that. She would have no reason to lie to that person.
Agreed. Hey, Sapper.
So I have no doubt that she was on her way to wherever she was going at the time in her vehicle.
Adds validity. It adds validity to Coakley's affidavit or Heidels. Anyway, go ahead.
She could just be mistaken that she was just saying that she was planning her appointments or on her getting ready for her appointments that day, and she just mistakenly took her for being in the car. Because if you look at everything around it, she doesn't actually check her voicemail that morning until 11:04 a.m.
I know. I understand. I mean, there's
She already got a call from Coakley and some other people. So at 11:25, she was calling this other guy that she was calling back. 11:35, she called back this girl. 11:40, she's looking at her maps and planning out her maps. 11:43, she's calling Avery because she just heard her messages about this Barb Janda wanting an appointment.
I get it. I get it. I'm right there with you, but
it was on her phone records that she was still in her area. She was where she was when she was at home. She's hitting that tower most of the morning. So
maybe she wrote. Maybe she was actually in the car.
Maybe she was a drive, lie to some clients about going to an appointment when she was getting breakfast. Who knows?
Maybe she was in her car and then she wrote that whatever down and went back to the house, dropped off the calendar, and then left again.
Yes, that's a possibility. But I don't think she was. I have a hard time believing that she's making all of her calls that morning from her car.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I've seen other people do that. I mean, I know lots of salespeople that make a lot of their sales calls from the road.
They do.
Was Wi-Fi something that was popular back then? Could she be bringing her computer into the car and printing out maps to go to Zipper's house?
No, she wouldn't. No, that's not necessarily what
happening all at the same time. So if she's at her computer, how is she driving? How is she taking calls?
I think
driving. I
think there's a piece of information that we're still missing. I think there's a piece of information we're still missing.
Was actually left on her.
What's that, Alice?
Or made it home.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, in 2003 and that as well, you had your Bluetooth dongles. As long as you had the dongle and things like that, then you could get onto the internet and the computer in your car. But you had to have the dongle, and it was just like Bluetooth, no necessarily Wi-Fi.
I'm not sure back then about technology.
What about a Palm Pilot? What was the point of the Palm Pilot? Isn't that
a Palm Pilot's like a little small thing that you can use to
and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. Sauerkraut?
Yeah, I was going to say, you could generally what you would do is you put all, as you're doing whatever you're doing, all the information you put into your Palm Pilot. Then when you get back to your computer, you plug it in and it was some form of synchronization. Yeah, it wasn't like you Wi-Fi'd in with it.
No, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that now that you're saying that particular Palm Pilot did not have Wi-Fi. There was a model that did, but I don't think she had it.
Yeah, and I also go back to thinking, this is also around daylight savings time frame. I don't remember when it actually was then, but there is the possibility that the time on her computer is wrong, based on that, because it either didn't update or wasn't set to update or something like that. I don't know how we can actually prove she was the one sitting at the computer doing all that.
I don't think we can.
What I can tell you is that she did not have the appointment for George Zipper until 7-something in the morning when it was faxed to her. So we do know that she printed out this thing at 10:30 the night before, according to her computer. What was not set correctly was the fax machine. That was 11 hours off.
Yeah, we know that. We know that was screwed up. Yeah, we knew the fax machine was screwed up. But that goes back, Sauerkraut, to what I think Alice or maybe BB was saying, that was with the time off, or maybe Susan said it. Was it you, Susan?
Yeah. I think the time could have been. Like Sarah said, that I think that daylight savings changed the Sunday before, didn't it?
I was thinking it was on the 30th, or maybe Saturday night. Yeah, or Sunday morning. Yeah,
it might have been right then. Yeah.
Yeah. So And because it's spring forward, fall back, we're talking about fall.
Yeah.
So it could have very well been 10:30 something if she was still sitting on the computer.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's just, I don't think there's any way at all we could ever know for sure. I really don't.
Yeah, not without getting our hands, or somebody getting their hands on Teresa's computer, no.
Well, this leads off into another
Well,
kind of.
do we have a map that was on her computer that they did put in the records that shows that she was looking up maps at 11:40 a.m. on Google? And it is in the map. It's the map. It's not like written on there. It's actually the data from the computer.
Right. And I agree with you. The problem is that whatever time she shows is, I guess, attributed to her computer. She goes to MapQuest, or I'm just going to use MapQuest. Isn't that what she used?
I think she used Google Maps.
Well,
but she used MapQuest, whatever it was.
Right. It's still going to show that it's going to reflect the time that's on her computer, I would think. So.
Yes.
But wouldn't they have then said, reflected that, like, I'm sorry, my computer in 2002 automatically went to the.
Yeah, but I remember there being a little tick box that you had to tick one way or the other if you wanted it to update for daylight savings time. I remember that well, Windows. I think now it's checked by default.
And isn't there a beginning where it says that all of that is all correct on her computer? Like, isn't there that little piece of paper right before they even do anything? Like,
I don't. Maybe I don't know.
No, I thought they checked the fax machine or something.
They did, and it was wrong by 11 hours, and then they.
Yeah, it was way the hell off. Yeah. So, well, this is one of those that it's a rabbit hole. I don't know that we'll ever get an answer to, and I tend to just leave it. But I will say that by her saying this in 2007, and that's this conversation she has with Hammerl, it does add a little more credibility for me to her later affidavit to Zellner, whether it's indeed true or not, or whatever series of events could have happened. Maybe Teresa was out. She wrote this down on her calendar, and she decided to run home and drop something off, maybe pick up some water. Maybe she was still nearby, ran it home, took her calendar in, dropped it off, bam. And that would still satisfy, the calendar being at home and not in her car. So.
Well, except for the note at the bottom that she made, that was definitely made while on the run.
Which one was that one? Was that Schmidt? No, not Schmidt.
Schmidt.
Speckman?
Dr. Speckman, whichever one of the Stevens.
Sheboygan. Yeah, Sheboygan Steve. Yeah.
Daylight savings time is set to change on Sunday of the first week of April at 200 hours. Standard time is set to change on Sunday of the 5th of the week. So she did have that set. So she was, and it was offset by 6 hours from the standard time of the GMT, which is how they show her records now, like that. That's in that time, GMT record, or GMT time zone, whatever that is, a little off, off the coast of our country.
Well, it's actually in Greenwich, England.
Yeah, Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah.
That's in England. Her records, by the way.
Is that
interesting?
Is that in a police report, though?
Yeah, but I don't think Valley on the 5th really had a reason to lie about anything. He started doing it even before the car was found.
Yeah, I would imagine he wouldn't have tried to.
Valley gave a regular report. It wasn't him who hit it. It was the fucking other people. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And the last time it had been turned off was like the 3rd at 7 something at night. I remember seeing that.
I think out of any law enforcement in this case, he's probably the only one that was actually being a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to hide what he did.
Exactly.
Was being honest. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can't have honesty in this crap. Get that out of here.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I'm gonna go put this in my desk.
I thought this was interesting, and good to get it out there. I guess everybody just kind of has to think about it in their own way. I just, with her, this is not like a Sawinski situation. We have a reference back to way back, and it adds some credibility. Whatever happened, I don't think I'm sure we'll never know. But and I don't. I'm one of these that likes to leave rabbit holes behind if at all possible. I just want out of it. I want to move on, if I can. So
I'll tell you what it does. It sure creates reasonable doubt. But anyway, you can move on from there.
well, it does.
It's good that it's all in the motions now.
Well, and that was another thing, a point that you brought up, that we're relatively sure that the defense did not have DCI Report 349, because as far as we know, it's not in the discovery transmittal that Kratz forwarded. He was pretty up about forwarding these reports to Strang and Buting. So.
And we also mentioned it's a Brady because they never did get any report of this call.
Yeah. And, talking about we may never know, something very significant just happened recently, apparently, while I was out camping, is the Coburn case was allowed to go forward.
Yes. It was.
Yeah.
What's that?
That was recent.
Okay.
Apparently that's just happening yesterday or today, or last couple of days, I think. Somebody else said that to me.
Last week.
Yeah, it had to be within the last couple of days, because I left on Thursday, and nothing had been said about it at that point.
That could be
very
interesting.
Significant.
Yeah, it could be very significant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I guarantee you that Netflix's lawyers are going to want to depose him.
Let's get Andy deposed. Yeah.
That could bring in a lot of other records.
Oh, it could bring in all kinds of stuff if you ask the right questions.
Yep. Old cell phone records, old dispatch records. It could bring in all kinds of stuff that we can't get access to.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. And Netflix has no reason to settle.
No, absolutely not. Nor would they, not against some chump like Greaseback.
Exactly.
Alice, comment?
Yeah, just that I'm hoping to God that goes further with the Coburn situation, because that's a lawsuit, isn't it? So the lawyers will be able to get more information, even more information than any of the defence lawyers got during the case, which I think that's a fucking silly way anyway. That your system works is that like the defence lawyers and that can't get the full discovery, but if they're going for a civil lawsuit or something like that, they lawyers can get a lot more information, which I think is totally backwards.
Well, with the civil suit, it's different than the rules are different as far as what lawyers can get.
Yeah, the rules are different. The evidence rules are different. In civil case, you have preponderance of evidence, which is a lower standard.
It sounds like the discovery side of things as well is more in the civil sort of side of it. Like they can get more information.
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm really confused at why Griesbach and Coburn did this, because basically the case they're making is that the documentary lied and that Netflix
defamed him,
condoned that lie, or whatever they want to say. Yeah, affronted the lie. Well, if I'm a Netflix lawyer, I'm going to say, okay, well, prove it's a lie. Show us where you were when you made that call, all that kind of stuff. So they kicked open a door I don't think they realized they kicked open.
No.
Well, when they first filed this, Zellner, it was like right before her birthday or something. And she said it was either right before her birthday, right before Christmas.
Christmas.
What a great present it was, because
I remember
she can't
that.
wait. Yeah.
That's right. It was in December. Because they had a deadline. They were running against the statute of limitations. They had to file it.
And she was thrilled, rejoicing, saying, "Great, it's a great present. I love it." Sure.
And we can't.
But the thing about the Coburn case is that it's not regarding what's in MAM 1. It's not regarding that phone call that Annie made. It's to do with whatever they did in MAM 2 that he complained about.
No, it was in MAM 1.
Oh yeah, I thought it was both.
But-
I thought it was the entire series, 1 and 2.
They didn't. They
Well,
didn't.
He
He wasn't
started.
served
he-
soon. They weren't served early enough. They missed their deadline on the first.
Well, it could have been, but he started looking for a lawyer by the 1st of January of 2016.
I know that, but when they served Lauren and
Oh yeah, it's too late, Ricardi.
it was too late for that first one. So then they filed another one
For MAM 2.
for MAM 2.
Oh, okay.
This is how I understand it. Yeah.
I haven't stayed close enough to them to really understand it fully, and you very well could be right. I just know that they were within days of having to file for the first one because, as far as I know, the statute of limitations is 3 years on that. So they filed it right before.
Yeah, they didn't catch up with Lauren Moira soon enough.
Well, wasn't there something?
I think it still opens the door though, because the basic bone of contention is that the documentaries, whether it's 1 or 2, made him look like a liar and a fraud,
and defamed him.
That's what his problem is, and so. And that's why I say, so the Netflix lawyers are going to come out and say, okay, you claim they made you look like a liar. Show us how you're not.
Prove it. Yeah.
Right.
And as
so,
I said, Netflix has they have no reason to settle because, this creative thing that they did, I don't agree with it. I never have. I just wish they would just played the damn trial stuff as is and not made any kind of dramatic effect. I didn't like it.
I mean, it's not only that. I mean, Making a Murderer was it 10 years in the making? So it's no like that they just decided to wake up one morning and go and spend a couple of weeks in a courtroom and watch a murder trial and a hearing and everything like that and pick and choose what they wanted to put in it. They worked on that for 10 years. So can you imagine the amount of information that they've been able to get, but they could not put in because it was just too much?
Oh, they could have easily made 30 episodes out of season 1. Easily.
Exactly. I'd love to know what was left on the cutting room floor. You know what I mean? Including the documents and that they were able to get access to as well. And a lot of people forget. It might have been a 10-episode series, each series, but that was done over 10 years.
Right.
I think they could just put the entire trial up and make a fortune on Netflix.
Absolutely they could.
Just the trial. Yeah.
And just donate it to charity. That's some kind of great charity and be done with it.
Yeah.
They really could. But, well, that's interesting. I would, it'll be interesting to see where that leads Saffrocop.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we sit back and wait on the goddamn COA.
True enough. I said 30 days during Ripper's lap while I was way the hell off on that.
Yeah, I think we all were. Well, I don't know. I think somebody said 60.
I think, Doc said, Dr. Silkman said 90 days or sometime around fall time, I think was his guess. And I think TikTok even said maybe midsummer or 90 days. I can't remember now. But, well, we'll see. I'm hoping that it gets one way or the other soon.
Yeah.
Let's start taking bets on which day.
Right. Do it like a Super Bowl chart or whatever. Those football pick charts. Pick a date.
Yeah, football pool.
$5 a square.
All right. So, any more questions before we move on and get to the next thing I'm going to bring up? If there's not anything else bring in the chat or whatever, I'm going to move to the next DCI report I've got up. No, nothing? Okay. This next section is this is nothing ground shattering, but it does raise questions. You can call it a rabbit hole if you want. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I can't really decide for sure. This is based, and there may be other. I only went so far in reading the DCI reports here. There may be another one that I've missed. If there is, somebody pointed out to me, and we'll make a correction here and close the lid on this. But this next one I'm going to bring up concerns the blood vial, and everybody remembers the blood vial from series 1 when Buting actually found that blood vial in June or July of 2006, but they didn't really show it until December. There was a big flap over it. Everybody remembers everything about the blood vial. Anyway, in going through these DCI reports, I've got report 313 pulled up, and this just caught my eye, and because I was actually looking for something else at the time, but this piqued my interest because anybody that's really studied the case remembers that there's been some rumorage about the blood vial actually coming from Kettle Moraine, the correctional facility, but there was also said that the blood vial was drawn at Fox Lake Correctional Facility. Now, going through these records, it's really confusing, and you'll see why when I go through this. I'm not going to read every single bit of it, but I am going to read some so you kind of understand what I was looking at. And also on Discord, I think, yesterday, and some can testify that I was like, what the hell? I just read this and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, Fassbender is talking to here. He's talking to Don Haas at the crime lab in Milwaukee. And he's trying to run down. You have to understand that they're trying to run down where this blood vial came from, okay? And you look at the date there. That's December 13th, 2006. So they're trying to run down where this blood vial originated. And, with good reason, I would imagine, because this is the defense is coming up with this planting defense about the vial and, blood being taken and some blood taken out and some blood being planted in the RAV. But, we'll leave that off for a second. So anyway, he's going through and trying to find it. Not only him, they're trying to find out where this blood vial actually originated. Okay. So I'm reading through these reports and, Fassbender talks to all kinds of people. This line above the part I highlighted here. S.A. Fassbender also spoke with Dean Stark from the Department of Corrections, Sex Offender Registry. According to her records, Avery, there was an entry showing for the date of September 1st, 1994. There's another saying showing DNA collected. Another entry showing found not guilty. There's a lot of ambiguous stuff here. I'm going to warn everyone of that. And I'm still not completely decided here. Anyway, the part I'm going to highlight here because they had already looked, they couldn't find any records. The two paragraphs up here where it says S.A. Fassbender spoke with Frankowski at the Dodge Correctional Institute. They're trying to run down medical records for Avery for either late 95 or early 96 because here's the thing. This blood vial was taken and it was shipped off, or two blood vials, as you will come to understand my confusion, either in December 95 or January of 96 to LabCorp for them to do DNA testing. So moving on. So she says Frankowski subsequently recontacted Fassbender following day and advised that she had reviewed his records and there were no records indicating blood had been drawn from Avery during that time. This is at Dodge, okay? Let's go down to the part here I highlighted. S.A. Fassbender also contacted Fox Lake Correctional Institution, and they checked their medical files and determined that there was no file for Stephen Avery at their institution. It was at Fox Lake Correctional Institution that Avery apparently had his blood drawn for DNA analysis. Okay, so now he's saying here, I think this is pretty much all around the same time frame, 12/22. I think when this one was written. Let's go back up. Actually, this report was written on 12/19. So let's move on to the next record, which is 325, and this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. And this report here is actually 9 pages long. I didn't blur this. It's going to appear blurred in your screen. I'm not going to try to read through a lot of the stuff that is blurred. I just cannot read it. It's I would just be wasting everyone's time to try to do so. You're more than welcome. The link to all the DCI reports is in the description. What did I do there? I didn't mean to do that. I can get that back now. That didn't want to. There it goes. Okay. Nope, that's not what I want. What happened to 325? Let me see if I can reopen 325. I apologize. I don't know why that closed, but it did. DCI reports. Apologize. This next one is talking about, this goes to the kettle moraine, as you'll see here. Let me see if I can get this opened here. Why is that not opening? Oh.
I hear your, I want a YouTuber cat. I want to be a YouTuber cat.
Yeah, my very, I'm not going to call him senile, but he is quite old, Kitty.
I thought Kaczynski was here again.
Would it be fair to say then that basically been made almost impossible to figure out where all this did come from?
Well, it certainly leads to a lot of questions. There we go. Yeah, I'm getting it back. Okay. Yeah, it does lead to a lot of questions. Anyway, this one here is quite lengthy. They contacted several different people, and I'm not going to read through all this because it's quite lengthy. Like I said, I left a link to all the DCI reports to my Google Drive. You can go and download them and read through them yourself. But as you can see, they're going. Let me explain this one here. What they've done, they've gotten access at this point to the Manitowoc County, to these boxes that are at the Manitowoc County clerk's office of Stephen Avery's files. Okay, these 2 boxes that they said were full of all kinds of records. And they're going through and they're reading through all of these, okay? And that's what these bullet points are, because they're talking about these various reports that they found in there. And they're bulleted, and you're well, and they're trying to make this connection here, one to another. So let's get down here to it here. So you get down here to page, this is page 5 of 9. There's 9 pages in this particular report, 325. So it says, let's get down there to it. It says an affidavit of Attorney Hennick regarding state of Wisconsin versus Stephen Avery under case number 85 FE 118. This is his 85 case file. On page 2, item 5, Attorney Hennick. Hennick is Avery's prior attorney, or his attorney at the time in the mid-90s. Okay, indicated that he received a telephone call from Laboratory Corporation of America indicating they had received both exhibits, which he had sent, also the blood sample drawn from Avery, which had been sent separately by Kettle Moraine Correctional Institution. The affidavit was signed by Attorney Hennick, notarized on April 23rd, 1996. So now I read this. So to me, it says, okay, first 313 said they drew blood at Fox Lake, but he didn't have any real record of that. And then this, we're moving up here to 325, and I think this is on like the 22nd. It's mid-December, I think. That blood was drawn at Kettle Moraine, and from what I can gather, both were sent to LabCorp. I don't know any other way to read it, other than he's partially guessing. And I think there's another little section here in this one, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's the next one. Yeah, here we go. This is on the last page. Excerpts from a report from the Shelley file regarding Stephen Avery. The excerpts included pages 2 and 3. The excerpts pertain to some background information on Avery to include history. Yeah, okay, never mind. I know that was about car crusher. I highlighted that. That was for my own reason. And I was asking around if anybody knew if when the Averys got their first car crusher. Because Avery said in this is from the 85 file, that Avery had included his work history, including how to tear down cars and running a crusher. So that tells me that they had a car crusher prior to 1985 and before. Don't know when that they got their original crusher. So anyway, moving on to 328. So now I'm just reading through these, and I don't know. Again, I'm just remembering back in just coming up through all this stuff before we got these reports that there was rumors that the vial came from Kettle Moran, but they were pretty sure it was Fox Lake. But you know, and now we're getting into more detail that possibly there was a second vial. And this is 328, and they're talking to Robert Hennick. This is his lawyer. So this is on December 20th, 2006. On Wednesday, December 20th, 2006, Fassbender telephoned attorney Hennick. Fassbender identified himself and asked Hennick some questions about the blood that had been drawn from Stephen Avery in 1995-96 when Hennick was representing Avery. Hennick provided the following information. Fassbender asked Hennick if the blood was drawn by prison staff or by private medical personnel. Hennick believed that it was drawn by staff at the prison. Hennick stated that he was pretty sure he had to get a court order to have the blood drawn, so he was pretty sure it was at the prison staff. Again, there's some ambiguity here. They don't really know. Hennick advised that he was trying to access some of the records and asked if he could telephone Fassbender back. After a short period of time, Hennick did telephone Fassbender back. Hennick advised Fassbender that from the information that he had, it was himself and the district attorney who had a stipulation in November of 1995 that the health services unit at the prison would do the blood draw. Based on that, Hennick advised the judge issued an order, which Hennick said he had drafted. Hennick advised he did not go to the prison when the blood was drawn. Hennick advised that the blood was sent directly to LabCorp for analysis. He advised that the blood would have been drawn either in late November or early December of 1995. Hennick advised that the LabCorp America received the blood on January 4th, 1996. And I think this is the reason I highlighted this next part, which I thought was a little weird, but that's me. On Friday, December 22nd, 2006, Fassbender again telephoned attorney Hennick. Fassbender said Hennick told Hennick that he had reviewed some of the files, and in those files was an affidavit by attorney Hennick wherein he wrote that Avery's blood had been sent separately by Kettle Moraine Correctional Institution. Hennick advised that he was probably a mistake by him, in that everything else indicated that Avery was at Fox Lake Correctional Institution at the time. Attorney Hennick provided no further information. I thought that was a little strange, that after all this, that Fassbender would call him back and then he says, oh, yeah, well, he was at Fox Lake. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Before I get to the next one, any questions, comments, concerns?
Could there be another vial floating around that somebody took at another prison at some point?
That's what I was going to say.
Well, my thing is how hard would it be to figure out where was Stephen Avery at in late '95? I mean,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. In jail,
exactly.
In prison, right?
He can't be in two prisons at once, right?
That was my thing when I was reading through it. I'm like, can they not figure out where the hell he was in November, December of 1995? And apparently,
I'm pretty sure they can.
Well, and apparently, Sapricop, the prison he's already in 313. They've already said they didn't have any medical files at the Fox Lake. And Dodge didn't have any. Which I think the next one may be where he telephones the Dodge Correctional, because there's more information that, again, comes in about this. So it's just, I don't know, it just struck me as really strange. Again, I don't want to create no conspiracy that there's two vials out there. I don't know that. I just know what it reads like to me.
Do they take blood from every facility goes in?
Is one orange and one red?
I thought a long time ago somebody had said that he got his appendix out when he was in prison, and that's probably where the blood vial had came from.
Yeah, that's another possibility.
Well, that is. I don't remember his having his appendix out. I do remember,
he thought they were poisoning him or something.
That wasn't until 2006, though. That wasn't
there
in
we go.
95. That was
right.
January 2006. He had his gallbladder or something, or kidney stones or something like that.
I thought it was his gallbladder he had out.
I think it might be his gall.
Maybe.
They thought it was kidney stones and it was his gallbladder, and he had to go out off site to have it removed.
Yeah, he'd go to the
Early
hospital.
January.
Here's a thought. Go straight to the horse's mouth. Somebody asked Stephen where he was at the end of 95. I guarantee you Stephen knows.
Yep.
That's probably a good idea, and probably
Isn't
worth
there
a
a
conversation.
record showing where that came back to? Like, I know there's some records of that blood vial coming back from wherever it was. It might have been something we seen in MAM 1 that I screenshot, or maybe if somebody actually had the record.
I don't know.
But
if you can,
does it say
LabCorp?
Does it say where LabCorp got it from?
I can't answer that one. It may. I don't. If we can nail this door shut, it would be just tickle me to death. I'd be glad to. But this next one is 328 or 329. I'm sorry. Yeah, we went through 328, and this is a discussion with this Daniel Westfield, and you can see again it's 1222 that he made a bunch of calls on, around this time frame. It says the occurrence is on 1221, but this is a security chief from the Department of Corrections. And this guy, if I'm remembering right, this guy's retired. And you're going to see here how blurry this is. I'm not going to try to read all this, so I'll go completely blind in trying to read it all. But anyway, Fassbender calls this guy.
I wonder if that was on purpose.
Well, you would think that would word the whole page because, it's like half the page is blurry and then you get the other half of the paragraph and you can read it, go back, it's blurry, back and go, it's just really ridiculous.
They practiced that with the bid number, right?
Well, somebody did, but I think maybe this part here, I didn't even highlight it. I can barely read this here. Security Chief Russell. This is about it's about mid-sentence here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. He contacted Fassbender and advised that he could not find something that Avery had been at Kettle Moraine or that blood had been the blood had been sent from there. So he's basically saying he can't find anything at Kettle Moraine that indicates the blood was sent from there. He could not advise as to why something in the files that Fassbender had examined. Again, this was really bad. I guess I'm afraid if I zoom it up, it's going to go crazy again. You could probably zoom in on it and get a little bit better understanding of what he's saying here. But again, it raises more questions as to what Fassbender's read versus what this Westfield. I'm sure this guy's retired at this point in time too. So let's move on to 36 here. 336. I'm sorry. This is where he's talking to this, and I did read in that prior report that he was told to contact Dodge Correctional Institution where Avery had been housed at some point. And, we'll read this one here. Friday, January 5th, 2007, Fassbender had telephoned contact with Beth Dittman, Health Services Manager at Dodge Correctional Institution. Dittman advised Fassbender that she had Stephen Avery medical records with her and had double-checked them and had determined that there was no record of a blood draw on or around November or December of 1995 or January of 96. She advised that there was no court order for that blood draw in her file. Dittman advised that she was able to determine by looking at the file that it was his complete medical file. She advised that there were entries on dates prior to the dates in question, as well as as well as after the dates in question, right up to his release. Dittman then advised that on blood draws, such as a court order, one for Avery, the laboratory would send all the materials necessary for the blood draw, the packaging, and the delivery of the sample. She advised it would be a normal practice to make an entry into the inmate's medical file when blood is drawn. She advised she could not speak, however, to the possible individual practices at the various correctional institutions. And that was it for that report. So she couldn't provide anything. And then, let's see, I think this might be the last one. No, that's a different, that gets into dead catch. So let's end it right there for this part of it. So this, this is the blood draw end of it. And it raised questions in my mind as to what was going on. Are there actually were there two blood draws and a vial floating around somewhere out there in wherever land? That brings in Kathleen Zellner's expert, and whatever that test was, it's going to take Dr. Silkman or somebody to pronounce it. She said the Zellner's expert says that the blood found in or at least the swab that they received, were properly age-dated blood. That, whatever age Avery was in 2005, that's how that blood aged out. However they do that test. It sounds like a
date methylation.
Thank you. So he says it's the correct blood for that year. And it's hard to argue against that. At the same time, I don't know how that stuff works. I'm not a scientist, but this caught my eye, and it, again, I don't want to open up a rabbit hole and say, hey, there's two blood vials out there, but this really raised questions in my mind, especially with, him going back and they're saying that there was a blood draw of Kettle Moraine, so that basically Laboratory Corporation of America got two vials, and there's one out there somewhere. But hopefully Jinx can find whatever she was talking about a few minutes ago, and we can close this door.
Oh, I zoned out. What was I looking for?
I need you to write this down. And get out your day planner and write this down.
And don't take it with you while you're driving.
Absolutely not.
I don't have a car, so
well,
if
you
you find
go.
it in a car, there's a problem.
Got a real problem. So anyway, questions, comments, concerns. I mean, this is interesting to me because of it is the blood vial, and that was such a big deal.
Well, the two easiest ways to verify any of that is one I've already mentioned is go straight to the horse's mouth. Stephen will know exactly where he was, and he'll tell you exactly where the blood was drawn and when. The second would be if there was a way to get LabCorp's records directly,
And that's
not
what I
from
was going to
DCI.
look for, the LabCorp record.
This idea that they want to paint that there was no way to know where the hell Stephen Avery was is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
As you can imagine, control of a prisoner is quite extensive. So there would be a shred of there would be all kinds of paperwork from a criminal or a inmate going from one place to another. It's tightly controlled. There's a piece of paper for everything. So it's idiocy to think, oh, we don't really know where he was.
And the medical file, they don't show anything at all, and we know he had.
He's a prisoner. He's a prisoner.
I mean, wouldn't you think, Linda, that they would know when he had a blood draw? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. They would have enough. I mean, there's so much paperwork for just one event from a prisoner. I mean, if he wants to switch lunch times, if he wants to go do a laundry, if he wants a new pair of clothes, they have to write a kite about everything. So there's kites all over the place.
Alice?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's stealing my words the night before I get them out.
Well, you just need to throw an elbow or two, and
I mean, exactly what Saffer says. You know what I mean? There is no way in hell that they didn't know where Stephen was. And the medical records for whatever prison that he was in are going to be there. You know what I mean? Because all the minute details are written down and in records, especially going from one prison to another prison to another prison. Even as Linda says and all, just going and getting something new. They have to go through their the officer that looks after them, and then the officer after that, and then they pass it on to them, and they pick it up, and then it goes to the governor. So there's a chain of command and a chain of custody along the way. And you try to tell me that there isn't the same thing with blood and stuff like that. So they're saying that there could be two Ravs. So there definitely could be two vials of blood.
Dr. Silkman says it goes to show the investigators took the blood planting scenario seriously. That's why they wanted to inventory taken of every biological sample taken from Stephen Avery.
Yeah.
Well, you would think, yeah. I mean, it's what it comes off to me as is that they felt like that there was a loose vial out there somewhere that they didn't have any idea where it was.
Hey, yeah, and they had to get control of it because it could possibly point to what they did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could still point to what, because it's like the whole RAV situation. You know what I mean? Now is there one or two RAVs because of the different colours of the way the light hits it, and some people say that the wheels aren't the same and stuff like that, and mud up the side and all the different things. So if they're dodgy enough to have two RAVs, then you're damn tootin' they're going to be dodgy enough to have more than one blood vial.
Well,
the Londoner.
What's that?
Here's something I'm thinking.
I'm sorry.
The Londoner has a question. He says, "Why did the cops need Avery's blood from a prison? Was he not in a database? In which case, a match would be enough to take blood from Avery?"
At that time, and not in late 95 or early 96, no, he was not in the database yet.
And that would have been standard procedure anyway, just to verify.
Yes, they would want a fresh sample right after cup.
Yep,
that's what I thought.
Shoot, I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was going to say.
No,
I was going to say, as far as the records they keep talking about, so the person put in the report that the medical record was complete. But what if, and this is very likely because MTSO and Calumet love to do this, what if they only told you about the dates you asked about? There could very well have been a blood draw from a date prior to what you asked about or a date after you asked about, and they're not going to tell you about that because you didn't ask for it.
True. That's true. Well, another thing it really bothers me is that even if LabCorp, let's just say LabCorp sent their own personnel to whichever prison, wouldn't I would think that there would be a record in Avery's file that said the LabCorp came and drew blood.
Wasn't it that nurse they were going to have testify? Isn't there because the LabCorp doesn't say where they got it from, but they did return it to them at Manitowoc. But there's a nurse, and like there's a stipulation in the trial too. Like if this nurse was called to testify, she would say that she took the blood vial from Avery at such and such facility, and that's how the hole got on the top of the vial. Wasn't there a nurse? Is there a report floating around in Calumet County reports from that nurse? Can't recall her name right now.
I know what you're talking about.
The one that died, right?
She has since passed away. She was the nurse that took the blood.
Yeah.
What? No, it's an older one, I think.
Dr. Silkman says in 1996 they only looked at 3 loci, not 15, and LabCorp made 2 errors on the results.
Interesting.
But it still didn't come back to somebody as Avery, right? It was like there was still one. Wasn't it still off? And they didn't give him his freedom even then?
No, sure. And the Londoner is saying, would Avery not be on a database for previous unrelated crimes?
No, at that point in time, in 95 or 96, no, as far as I know, he wasn't entered into the database until a few years later, 2000, 2002.
Was it not when he got exonerated, Jack?
Yeah, it was sometime around that time frame. Dr. Silkman's been talking about. I remember him mentioning it was, Carl Hain that put him in, but that was several years later. So he wouldn't have been in there.
Even start CODIS, I think it was 96 or 97 when they put out the trial with it, or it was 7 states or whatever it was. So
yeah, it was pretty small back then. It was, you're right, Susan. So, well, I just thought that this was interesting. Another interesting thing and I didn't maybe it's a conversation for another time, but reading through these DCI reports, and I recommend anybody that's really interested in the case to kind of understand their movements. There are many reports if you read through these, probably prior to, it's somewhere in the this number range of the 300s, late 200s, early 200s. They're also talking to many different county clerks that work for Manitowoc County about who had access. They talked to, I'll bet you there was 8 or 9. Wasn't that, Sammy, you were here, and BB too. You were, when I was going through and reading how many there were that they had talked to, and they were talking to people that had only worked there part-time, and it was crazy. I mean, and many of them, they said, well, they didn't know Link. They'd seen Coburn because he'd ran for sheriff, but they never saw him back there at the counter. If he was back there, it was probably just to drop off a search warrant, that kind of thing. It's really interesting how many people they talked to, trying to drive that part of the defense's theory off, that that they had got in there and got that blood vial out. It's pretty interesting, and that some of these people have been out for quite some time.
Well, yeah, it made it it was really, in the end, insignificant. Nothing pertinent was said. And if you're asking people that don't even know, that person could have walked by at some particular time and date, but they don't know the person. So how do you expect them to even remember?
Right. Exactly.
Well, I think that was more of covering the bases. They want to make sure if somebody saw somebody, who was it and who did they think they saw? That way they could control the narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just a CYA thing.
It's actually quite amazing how many that did work for Manitowoc County in some clerk capacity. I mean, not all of them were. There were various ones, but there were, I'm going to guess, at least 8 or 9. There may even been 10 that I read through that they contacted. I was actually kind of surprised that there would be that many. I wouldn't think, Manitowoc, I think at the time, in that time frame, had, I'm going to say it was 100,000 people in it, 110, if I'm remembering correctly. It was kind of interesting, though, to me, that they would go through to that degree to say, hey, and some of them said, they did know Link, they did know Coburn, but they'd never seen him back there, or they'd seen him back, maybe dropping a warrant off, but never behind the counter where those boxes were. So, anyway,
but
okay.
The problem is MTSO had a key, so they could have gone there at night when nobody was around. That's
right. They even contacted the cleaning people. I can't remember their name, that they were talking about, but you're right. There was, if I'm remembering right, there was a key and there was one of those pads with a cipher that they could get into. Also,
yeah, it was and it was a master key, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. They could have gotten into anything.
Oh, even without the cipher, that's right. The master key just opens it, doesn't it?
Yep.
There was also, if I'm remembering right, and I'm almost positive, there was an entry from another building that connected, a back entry to the county clerk's office, and I'm going to say it was a library. And of course, you had to have the master key to do it, but if they had the master, it wouldn't matter anyway.
Right.
So,
which I seem to remember that's what they had.
Yeah. It's also interesting that until I can't remember if it was that Lynn Zygmunt, or is that her name? It was the clerk. Until she came along, that the log that they kept for people that came in and out was really kind of like, if you remember to do it, great. If you didn't, that was okay too.
Yeah, it was a mess.
It was pretty loose. Yeah. So.
And it's really weird that they had his file sitting there where it was.
It is weird because
chain of custody was completely gone at that point.
Oh, disaster.
Yeah.
And another clerk said that, most of the older files, they were kept downstairs anyway. And they named the whatever room, there was some kind of, I think they called it some kind of vault, maybe had a label to it or something. But for that file to be that old, to be upstairs in the county clerk's office, yeah.
I mean, that's like, what, 5 years or? Or no, wait, 3 years that it sat there?
Probably.
It was there almost 10 years, wasn't it? 96?
Well, sitting there and, I'm sure they accessed it to check get the blood.
Jinx, don't you remember one of the clerks said that the reason they left it up there is because people kept coming by and asking to look through stuff, and they just let them,
And it was mostly papers, except there was the blood vial in that bottom of that box or whatever. Remember, they couldn't find it for a long time. They didn't find it until right before they started doing all these DCI reports about it. It was sometime in late November, early December, if memory serves, in 2006.
Well, no, Buting found it in June or July, and he started researching the EDTA, if I'm remembering right.
Right.
And he couldn't find anyone that could do it because, it's just junk, it's just garbage. And then
the Calumet County was looking for it, and Remaker's like, it doesn't exist. It's not here, yada yada, for quite some time until the judge put it aside when they found it in that box.
Yep.
So they could all go examine it. And I just want to say the nurse who supposedly took the blood was a prison nurse named Marlene Kranitz. So we'll have to look into her.
Okay. Good.
Jack.
Yep.
If I could just quickly make a point.
Welcome, Doc.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm only going to be a minute. I'm just listening in, and it's great. Just regarding that blood vial, if I could just read it out. I've actually got the document.
Please do.
And it was signed by the Honourable Fred Hazelwood, and it said, and I'll read it out. It's only a short passage. It is further ordered that the Health Services Unit at Fox Lake Correctional Institution obtain a DNA sample from the defendant, Stephen A. Avery, as requested by Laboratory Corporation of America, and forward that sample as directed to Laboratory Corp of America. And it was dated the 29th day of November, 1995. And it's correct. The blood vial, the purple top blood vial, was collected by Marlene Krantz at Fox Lake Correctional Institute. So it looks like there was one blood vial. One.
Interesting. Thank you very much for looking that up. That nails that shut. It is interesting though. Interesting though, that they couldn't find any entry when they called the MECA that he was inquiring at Fox Lake, and they couldn't find anything in his medical file. But that closes it. That ends it right there.
And so essentially back then in 1995, 1996, DNA sampling, PCR sampling was very primitive.
Yeah.
They only looked at, I've got the actual original LabCorp report here, and they only looked at 3 loci, right? And which meant they looked at the TPOC, PHO1, and CSF, which means that they didn't have enough information to put in a proper genomic DNA profile into CODIS. And the other thing is LabCorp, I proved it, LabCorp made 2 mistakes on his DNA profile. So there's no way that Culhane would have pulled out Stephen Avery's name back in 2005. So I did a presentation which actually proved that Culhane sneakily put in his genomic DNA profile when she did his exoneration.
I remember that.
That's why they kept it really quiet, because Stephen actually was exonerated, not arrested. And I know that there was a time where they actually, if you were a prisoner, you had to give a DNA sample to get your DNA into the CODIS database. Right. But at a time when Stephen Avery was in prison, they actually had to throw out all the biological samples, and they of course kept item W, the buccal swab. And that's exactly why they were shitting themselves. And they did a inventory of all the biological samples that they had on Stephen, and all of a sudden all this material showed up, and that's why they panicked. Because as soon as the defense put in the notion of blood planting, right? Remember Norm Gahn went off his tree saying, oh, now the defense is using the swab for planting. And of course they had item W as the buccal swab. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you very much. That ends it right there. It is interesting, though, that this trail led all over the map, and no one seemed to have this record that blood was drawn at Fox Lake. Wow.
Correct. And it's there from the judge, and the judge signed it as well.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much for taking care of that. That
How
closes that.
How much money did that cost the state, all that investigating?
Yeah, a lot.
Well, so they went after this for days, and it was more than just Fassbender. There were others that were making calls around these various facilities, And Dodge, Fox Lake, Kettle.
It makes it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it makes a really fascinating story. They were clearly very, very worried about Stephen Avery and the biological samples.
I agree. Well, interesting.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. This next one may interest you as well. It's pretty short. It's changing the subject though completely. I'll continue.
I'll listen in.
Yep. Okay. This next one, if there's no more questions, any more questions before we move on? I don't want to shut anybody off here because this is I don't know. It was just interesting to me. We're good. This next one involves Deb Kakach, and I probably wouldn't have caught it yet, but I was continuing to read through the DCI files when I was reading along, seeing where this would go. And so I read a few past 343 or wherever we ended up there that I ended on. This was involves Deb Kakach, and I thought it was just a really strange report. It's really short, as you'll see. It's dated, here we are, 1/22/2007. So basically, this is 3 weeks before trial, I think, something like that, approximately. When did it start? Anybody remember, Susan? Was it like the 12th or 13th of February?
February 7th, was it?
Oh.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there.
Day was the 12th or the 13th.
I did too.
I don't know.
Well, regardless, they're just a few weeks away from trial. So anyway, Heimerl, I think it is here. We'll get to it. Yeah, it's Heimerl. He goes to interview Deb Kakach. So I'll just read it out here. Like I said, it's not that long. During the week of January 8, 2007, Special Agent Heimerl was assigned to assist with the additional investigation related to the Teresa Marie Halbach investigation. Heimerl was assigned to contact subjects listed on the defense witness list. On January 19, 2007, Heimerl made telephone contact with Manitowoc County Coroner Deb Kakach. Heimerl identified himself and verbally explained the reason for the contact. As Heimerl asked Coroner Kakach if she was aware that she was listed as a potential defense witness in the case of State Wisconsin versus Stephen Avery. Kakach stated that she was not aware of this. Coroner Kakach stated that she did not know why she may be called as a witness and stated that she does not know what type of testimony may be needed from her as a defense witness, as she did not, as she felt she had no relevant information other than being a coroner for Manitowoc County. And that's the end of the report. That's it. Which I thought was really strange, because normally even in the shorter ones, they'll put person provided no further information, but it's just like ends it. It just, I don't know, it just caught my eye. I thought it was really strange.
Can I make a comment on that?
Please.
Yeah. See, this is your typical CYA cover your ass bullshit by the state. So essentially, there's no doubt that Norm Gunn would have seen that report, and same with Kratz, and they thought, this is how we can get Deborah off the stand, right? So Deborah obviously, you know the story of the coroner, right? How she felt threatened.
Sure.
She wasn't allowed to go onto the Avery salvage yard. Yep. Well, do you think she was now going to reveal the real reason why she was going to testify to Heimerl?
Probably.
So she protected herself. She goes, oh, really? Of course Deborah knew that she was a witness, because she actually brought a whole series of folders and files right up to the stand. So she was prepared. So she basically said a little fib so it didn't go any further, right? Because her story was really important to tell in front of the judge, in front of the jury.
That's right.
Well, the state were not stupid. They realized what she was going to do and hence blocked her and got her off the stand, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is, just a travesty of how they treated her. And she knew. Deborah Kakich obviously was, what can I say? She obviously was contacted by the defense team that she was going to be a witness. You just don't randomly just show up in court. You have to be listed. And as soon as they saw her name on that list, and as soon as she took the stand, they panicked, right? And that's why Norm Gunn basically said, hey, judge, get the jury out of here and let's get her off the stand as well.
Right. We don't want to hear what she's got to say because, man, this is going to look bad.
It's going to look really, really. And you think poor Deborah, right? Even the mere factor that she got contacted by that guy, Heimerl, and he's the one that found he found some of the cremains, he found some of the rivets. He basically did the job of the coroner.
Basically,
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that he's the one that contacted Deborah Kakich and saying, oh, did you realize? Oh, my God. Anyway, guys, I've got to go, but thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak.
Oh, thanks for dropping in, Doc. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Yep. And I'd like to welcome Londoner to our Discord and our chat. Hello, Londoner. I'm not sure if they having a microphone issue or.
Sometimes if they are on Apple iPad or whatever, or iPhone, you have to give permission to your microphone on your phone to be able to talk it.
I'm looking here to see if what kind of device they may be on. Yeah, it looks like they are on a phone for sure. So if it is an iPhone.
Oh, you found the unmute.
Yep, found the mute button. Well, I mean,
they unmuted for a second.
Well, they don't have to speak. It's fine. They're just more than welcome to be a part of the chat. Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to Foul Play. Glad to have you. It's always good to have new people coming on board and wanting to know the truth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I just, like I said, I was going through the records and I came to that one that actually have stopped there. There's still several more after this, and I've got to go back and read some more of these. They're really interesting to me as the movements of the DCI. I kind of kicked myself in the ass because for so long we wanted these records, these reports, and I guess it was wanting so hard, and then we finally got them. It's like, but I'm finally starting to go through them, and a lot of them, as I've said before, they're mundane. A number of these, especially early on, they contacted so many people that called the Avery salvage yard to buy a part or whatever. They had absolutely no connection to the case at all. It was just a waste. It was a huge waste of time. Huge waste of time. So a lot of those were like that. But we still had to go through them. We had to see them. I remember reading. I'm not going to say the name because it doesn't matter. Someone that allegedly had seen the DCI reports and they pointed so strongly at Avery's guilt and all this stuff. And I'm sorry, what? I'm reading through a bunch of these now and I'm not seeing that whatsoever. I see a bunch of other things, but
wasn't that somebody on SAG?
Well, it was an alleged truther, but they really yes, you're correct. You're correct. Yeah,
I seem to remember that.
Yeah, you pretty well nailed it. It was, and I don't know. I just found it really, really hypocritical now that I read through many of these, but they make for a good read.
Yeah, I remember they were talking about having these reports that nobody else could get access to.
Yes, that they worked at some law firm and for some reason they had a copy of these, and I'm thinking to myself, why would you have a copy of these DC? What are you doing with them? It is interesting also, and I don't know that we can ever get them, but some of these reports have attachments that are not part of the actual report. I don't know that we can get them. I'm not even sure how we'd go about it. One would write a FOIA like that to try to get them. Another one that we did talk about last time was these multiple agencies that were contacted for cell phone records. And I actually read through. I actually posted it here somewhere on our Discord the other night, where right after Kaczynski was handed the case for Brendan, Kaczynski, he made mention that they had all the cell phone records for everyone on the Avery salvage yard going back to June of 2005. And I know there's a lot of phone records we don't have. So, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Maybe I'll write one. Maybe I'll write one myself. And I'm dealing with another one right now, though. That's really irritating. But anyway, that's pretty much the end of what I've got. If anybody, this is actually a pretty short.
I would just like to say a quick something, Jax.
Sure.
There's still a lot of people out there that are bashing the family, especially Barb and Scott and Bobby and things like that. Now, people are allowed their own opinions, and we say that all along. Everything that we do is just our opinions and our assessments of what we've discovered. But a lot of people aren't doing the investigating and things like that like we're doing. So they're not getting the full picture, but they're quick enough to jump to conclusions. Now, me, Linda and Becca have started doing the post-convictions of Brendan's case again on the Sunday. And it is there in black and white. So I'll say, if nobody's seen it yet, go to the Brendan Talks, and it was just Sunday there that we done it, and it's the post-conviction hearings, and it is there in black and white at how much that they kept from Barb, because they did not tell her about Brendan passing the lie detector test. Now, if they're keeping that kind of information from them, what other information are they keeping from them? So a lot of people think that if they go and speak to KZ and everything like that, then this case, that's it, this case is going to be solved. No, it's no that fucking easy, because they kept a shitload back for that family, and if they can do that with a 16-year-old's lie detector test, then what else can they have kept back for that family, especially his mother? Never mind Scotty being the boyfriend and everything like that at that time, especially his mother, because if she found that out, that he passed that test, then there would have been holy hell to pay. So I just want to put that out there, and that's my thoughts on the whole situation, and I would like to think that other people agree on that. Everything's not as black and white as it seems.
Well, I don't know if you were. Thank you, Alice. I appreciate you saying that. And it's easy. Again, it is easy to get on this low road, and I understand. We all understand the anger over Brendan's situation, but I think everybody should keep in mind. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. It didn't matter what Barb did. It didn't matter what decision she made. It was going to be wrong. It was going to be bad. There's just no way around it. They were going to get Brendan, period. But I don't know if you were here the other day, and I was talking. I know Linda was here, Becca was here, and we're not interested in. We're not going to play the Brendan's jail calls, but there's a lot of information in them, and I know that Becca, she released one the other night. It was many people don't know that Anjanette Levy did an interview with Brendan. It didn't turn out exactly how she wanted it to turn out, though, did it, Alice and Linda?
No.
And in fact, it turned out really terrible for her. But it's interesting that it never aired, and they can make every excuse under the sun. They've already blasted his name all over the place. He was with his uncle. co-conspirators. And that was the entire story. But, excuse me, she did a phone interview with him. It's about 15 minutes approximately. And it just did not go the way that she wanted it to go. And she really was pretty rough on him, in my opinion, as a reporter. She was asking questions, well, the cops are saying this, and, why would they say that if you didn't do this and do that? It basically, Brendan, to me, it comes across as that they did not want to get this in the public's eye, because then they would question what they did to him. There's another call that Brendan basically is telling Barb that they said he was a drug addict, that he smoked crack. You remember? Were you here that the other day? Linda was here, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. Weren't you here, Linda?
I remember that.
Yes, I was. I sure was.
Yeah,
I remember it from long ago. Yeah.
They told Barb that. Yeah. They told Barb that. Told him that. He told Barb that.
Because they had been talking to his friend Travis, and that's what he told them. And that's so the cops were out there telling him Brendan's a crack addict and whatever. It was a total lie, but they did it to smear him, and it wasn't true at all. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Londoners ask, I'm curious to know if the witness who saw the car being pushed on the property was documented at the time the guy called it in, if Zellner has that. If it can be proven a witness called at that time reporting this would be profound for the appeal. Yes, it would. And we don't know. We honestly don't know what information that she's actually got. As far as we know, with the information that we've got, there isn't a report on this guy phoning in. But there's a good thing that KZ does have truth, because I honestly don't think that she would put something like that out there and not have something to back it up. And that's just my opinion. So I'll let somebody else answer that as well.
Well, that goes, and I'll let other people talk after I say this, Londoner, that, like this last one, I played it earlier on in the podcast, is that this report and a phone call, Denise Coakley, and now she's Denise Heitel. Denise Coakley did make a call. Whatever we do with that's different. But she did call November 8th, 2005 and reported this call to the police. And then, they did an interview with her. Now, Sowinski is who you're talking about, this new affidavit, Thomas Sowinski. The only thing that we've got right now is his word. He says he called, and Manitowoc is saying they don't have a record of it in their system. But everything's recorded. Now, does that mean they have it or had it? I don't know. So they, like Al said, hopefully, Zellner has done her due diligence and has an old phone record from whoever his provider was.
This thing about the family, the important thing I know that I try to do in this case is to remove any emotional connection, because the minute you get emotionally invested into something on one side or the other, you lose your objectivity.
Thank you.
So, and as wide, and I've said it many times, it's so hard to try to pinpoint even a valid direction to go in terms of figuring out what actually happened here. So I know for me personally, nobody's off the table. Now I don't know that I know I've questioned Barb, or I've had some questions for Barb when she's been in chats before. I don't think I've ever, attacked her or accused her of anything, but I've certainly had questions for her. And I know that, there are things that she, Scott, and Bobby did during that whole period, and even on the stand, that tells me there's something more there. I mean, if you watch, Scott, for instance, if you watch Scott's testimony, that is not a man that was manipulated. He was quite happy to be giving the information he was giving when he was on the stand. And that includes a very blatant lie about a fire. And in reports that they took with Barb, she did the same thing. She reported a fire. She even reported Brendan standing by a fire. Now, we all know that's not true because it never happened. So to me, I look at it and go, yeah, it is her son, and I know she'll say that she's there to protect Brendan, but there was things she did that really hurt Brendan pretty badly. And I can't get past that. So
well, I think that everybody understands that, and again, this goes back to what I said it months ago, well, at least weeks ago, is that no matter which decision she made, she's looking at, well, maybe not so much, the oldest, Brad, but, she's looking at three of her children, she's trying to protect, and, as a mom, maybe not even knowing what they've done. So any decision she makes is bad. It doesn't matter what the hell she did. And again, I was really cruel to Barb long ago. And like I said, you lose objectivity. You just do.
Hey, look, they were out to get Steve at any cost. They were going to get their man.
That's right.
And do you not recall the one interview / interrogation they did? Wasn't he and his brother going out to get a pop and got stopped?
That's right. That was in Crivets. That was in Crivets.
So I hate to tell everybody, but no matter what, they were after Stephen, and they zeroed in on Brendan.
Well, they didn't care. It's like I've harped on what I feel like that Candy did to it really drove, from my perspective, from what she did and what the reports she made to Fassbender. She called into question, she called in and said, hey, we got these messages, between, her girls and Brendan and whoever was at the Dassey house on the computer. Of course, that immediately pulled them into it. She didn't have to report that because that immediately focused that attention right to the Dasseys. I think she's just as much at fault, or at least she carries some burden there in my mind. Yep. But, again, I understand, and I think everyone here understands, and a lot of people listening, this, once you reach a point of anger, you cannot be objective. Sapperkopf, he's said it correctly. There are questions we have, and we want them answered without the anger. If she made a bad decision, everybody makes bad decisions. Come on, we're all human. Do I agree with decisions after the fact? Probably not. But I could probably tell about 15 things that I've decided in my life. People are going to be like, "You did what?" Look at me.
Yeah. I mean, I also agree that I don't think Barb or Scott or Bobby hold the key. I think they have a piece of the puzzle, or maybe even several pieces of the puzzle each. I think if anything, I think if anything, there's a lot of indication there that they know more than they do, but it's a question of what is it they know, and how does it fit the overall picture? You know what I mean? I always kind of ask the question, that they several of them got up on the stand and clearly lied. Several of them gave reports that they clearly lied. So my question I always have is, why would they? What would MTSO have over them? Yeah. What would MTSO have over them that is so powerful for them to take the course they did, right? And I don't know if a simple drug possession like pot is going to drive that, because pot's nothing. You're not going to get a hard time for pot. So it has to be something else to drive that. But like I mentioned with Scott did not look like a man that was manipulated when he was on the stand. He was very happy. He was very adamant about what he was saying. Bobby, not so much. When Bobby was on the stand, Bobby looked very reserved. Bobby looked almost to the point of scared, but not quite scared. But during the
headlights, exactly. With Bobby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But Scott was like, get me on that stand. Let me. I've got something to say. That's what I got from his testimony. So
I've definitely the interview that he gave after, you remember what he said to the news people.
Yeah.
He got what he got coming to him.
Yeah, that and his smirk when the guilty verdict was read out.
Yes. Well, I have now. I guess one of my biggest problems, I have more than one, with Scott, is the growth of the fire, and that's a real issue because his first report, November 10th, there was no fire. November 29th, there was a 3 to 5 foot fire. End of March 2006, when he finally was interviewed by CASO, it was a bigger fire.
10-foot fire. Yeah.
Well, then at trial, it was a huge blazing fire, and his most memorable thing of the day, besides his mom, his mom had back surgery, a pretty serious surgery, I guess, So I don't know. There's something there that we're clearly not privy to or party to, that, people are going to question, and again, they have every right to do so. But it's better to do it without anger to get the real answers that we're looking for. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yourself, Jax. I mean, we've been in chats, and Barb and Pete have both came on and chat, and they have answered questions.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's not like they're not prepared to answer questions. You know what I mean? But and yes, everybody is got to be looked at. We've got to follow the truth wherever that may lead us.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean to say that Barb has to take a bashing every time. And as you say, yes, she made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We're all human. We've all made mistakes. And fair enough, they might have been really bad mistakes at that precise moment in time. But does a lot of people think that if that was the case, that woman's got regrets?
That's like Sapercop just said. What is the driver? That's the real question. What was the instigator to force or at least they felt like force their hand to go a direction that they did? There has to be something. It could be. These are the police. Then you have Kratz and Fallon and these other people, and who else knows? Plus, you got to add to the fact people just make poor decisions based on what they feel like maybe at that particular time in their life was the best decision, or maybe even the only decision they could make.
Yeah, and I mean we don't know what was going on. I mean we don't know if the police were threatening to take, get man's eye or stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I'm going to tell you I take Fox Hills. I take the Fox Hills visit as a direct threat. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but to me, they basically kidnapped that family and took them to Fox Hills.
Yeah,
and they said that they did it. They said they did it for safety, but then they turned around and let them the following morning.
Yep. All right. That's kind of how it looks.
Yep.
Oh no, that's definitely what it was. It was Fox Hills. I've said this many times. Fox Hills was done to basically prepare Brendan for March 1st, and that's kind of one of the things that really kind of gets at me about kind of Barb's little role in this. I always talk about I've got a daughter and she's my absolute world, and I can't think of a force on the face of this earth that would be able to get me to leave her to the wolves, I guess is a way to put it. No matter who they were, you would have to be the baddest MFer on the planet, and I'm still going to take you on. No matter what badges you wear, no matter what role you have, et cetera, et cetera. So I look at these two situations specifically, Fox Hills and that March 1st interrogation.
Yep.
Where Brendan was basically left. Barb had the ability to step in and say, this isn't happening. You're not going to question him. And really, there was nothing Wiegert and Fassbender could have done about it except, try to, puff their chest and scare her. But that's about all they could have done. They had no legal recourse to do anything. They would have had to stop it right there.
Well, that or just simply arrest him, maybe prior to earlier than they wanted to. That's possible.
Yeah, that too.
You've got to remember though, the police were sneaky bastards, because
I hear you. Yeah.
they made a point of going for Brendan when Barb was at court.
Yep.
So she can't be in two places at the one time. So she couldn't be at the school to help and support Brendan when she was probably getting the phone calls because she was sitting in a courtroom. So she didn't have any of the messages until after she came out of that courtroom. And by then she's reading that, or she's going to be like, what the hell? And they never told her where he was being held. And they also lied on the fucking stand when they said that they had told Barb, they had offered Barb, to go down into the car, and down to the police station with them, and they never.
Well, and another thing, they legally, I think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but in the state of Wisconsin at the time, legally, they could question Brendan without a parent there. Is that right? I got that right?
They could, but if that parent showed up and say, you're not questioning my child, they're done. They can't force that parent to make that child sit there, right?
There's another call too, and I don't know how many if you've listened to any of them, Sapper Cop or anybody else, but there's another call where and Brendan didn't really want to talk about it on the phone. You could tell he was very hesitant. Where Brendan's or Barbara's talking to Brendan about the March 1st interview, and she said, "Don't you remember, Brendan? You told me that Mark and Tom talked to you prior to them turning the recorder on, and basically led you through." And he, he's like,
I haven't.
You haven't listened to him?
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of the calls. And I don't know, for those that have, I'm sure there's probably a lot of information in them. If you listen to them closely, there's probably stuff you're going to pick out. Always think back to the infamous Barb, Scott, and Stephen call. There's a lot in that call if you stop and think about it.
Oh yeah, there is.
And I know what you're saying, Alice. I know that there was at least a number of occasions where, like when they pulled Brendan out of school, when they had him in the back of the cop car and all that, where either nobody knew what was happening or they lied about where it was being held and all that. That definitely is the case. But the two, like I said, the two I always go back to is the March 1st itself and Fox Hills. And the reason I say that is because even at that time, Barb kind of knew who she was dealing with. She knew these weren't nice people. So I think her guard should have been up more. And I understand that people are going to paint the whole Avery Dassey clan as unintelligent or intellectually,
limited,
lower standard, or however you want to put it, right?
Yeah.
And I know that the cops knew that was the case too. So they probably had it in their head that, hey, all we got to do is puff our chest a little bit, and they're going to do whatever the hell we tell them to. And that may have been the case, but as a father, I would still say I feel like Brendan was let down. And I know Brendan's very loving of his mom. He's very protective of her, and I know he's said that if anybody's going to respect him, they shouldn't go after her, and I respect that to a certain extent, but I kind of view Brendan as or under the same umbrella as like a domestic abuse victim, right? Because we all know that in the vast majority of cases, an abuse victim is going to do two things. A, they're going to probably not leave their abuser, but even worse, two, they're going to protect them. And so I kind of view Brendan in that same light, especially since he is intellectually incapacitated. He still kind of has the mind of a child to a certain extent. I know he's grown up some since then, but I don't think he's quite at adult level yet.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
So I take all that into account, so when in any questions or anything, I have about Barb or anybody that section of the family, I know for me, it's not a matter of anger. It's just, there's a lot of questions that aren't answered that I would like
you
to have answered,
you want answered.
Yeah.
Well, the flip side of that, and I have to say it, and I think you'll probably agree, and I think everybody here will agree. I look at the case as it reverts back. We reverberate back to where we were at the time. I look at what O'Neill and Baldwin did in Crivets. And then we move past that, it goes on for a period of time. And then we head into, February. After the civil suit was settled, they really sharpened their nails and went after Brendan after they'd tried to get a number of people to flip on Stephen. And that didn't work. Well, anyway, not belaboring the point of Box Hills, but they, I think they knew, how malleable Brendan was. And here's my problem. You not only had the state, and we can name them off. I won't do it. Everybody knows who they are. But you also had, after Ralph, the first lawyer, he had to leave. Then Kaczynski gets handed this case, and going back to what Alice was talking about, these 2010 post-conviction hearings, Brendan was trying to get relief. Going through those and reading them, I've read them a number of times myself. When I first read them, I was completely blown away as to how much it pointed to how much collusion went on between Kaczynski and O'Kelly. That guy. Oh my God!
And Kratz,
and Kratz and Fassbender and Wiegert, and if Kratz knew, Fallon and Gahn knew as well.
Yep. Yeah, Kaczynski was clearly a stooge on his knees for Kratz. Why, I have no idea.
Well, he wanted he wanted the robes back. He wanted the judgeship. There's no doubt. He wanted to get his name out there. Public figure running for, get his municipal judge badge or whatever. I don't think he was running. Go ahead, Alice.
He seen Sweaty Prize on the telly every 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So he thought he could get a bit of the action and all. So he tried the same, but it fucking backfired on him because he was a twat and he did nothing for that, Wayne.
Well, it looked horrible for him because he's on the television news making these claims about Brendan, but he hadn't even talked to him yet. I mean, what kind of lawyer does that? Well, it's not really a lawyer to me, but it to that effect. I did a Reddit post a long time ago, and the best that I could count it was about a 25-day stretch. Kaczynski averaged about 2 interviews per day, minus a few days where he actually filed some kind of motion. I think that was the one where he was trying to get the March 1st statement thrown out. I think he actually did a little work for a few days, and then he was right back at it again, back in the media. So I've just never seen or heard the case where collusion was so clearly defined, so clear.
Yeah, I am absolutely shocked that they didn't win on an ineffective assistance of counsel claim on Kaczynski, and for that matter, even the 2 attorneys afterwards, they were just as useless. They may not have sold Brendan out like Kaczynski did, but they damn sure didn't help him.
They were about a half a step ahead in the readings we've done so far, Alice. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, even Jerry Butin, when pulled Kaczynski aside and says to him, look, Brendan's last lawyers never done this and this and this for him. I'm sure it was a hearing. They never put a hearing through for him, which he's entitled to. You need to get that sorted and that. And Kaczynski went, I'll think about it. So
that was Fremgen and Edelston. Kaczynski was gone, and Buting and String had hired and paid for that child psychologist to come and testify, and they kept putting him off.
I'm sure it was an illusion of justice, Jack, that Jerry had said that he had pulled Kaczynski aside.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're correct.
That his lawyers that he just had did not do him properly, so he needed to apply for this hearing because he was entitled to it, and he went, I'll think about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, well, O'Kelly.
What's that, Linda?
O'Kelly. In my book, O'Kelly set it all up. It was straight for the state. There was no getting the truth. It was showing them their narrative. He tells the truth, and the guy says, you're lying, and I can't help you until you draw, here, What's the matter with this? You got to draw Teresa there. She's not in there. I mean, O'Kelly was clearly not for Brendan's benefit whatsoever.
Oh,
Not at all. No.
none whatsoever. And see,
O'Kelly,
you know,
O'Kelly was Kratz, Weird, and Fassbender all tied up in one little bow, a blue bow.
well, then that was another part of it, and I guess that was really my point, Supercop, is that, you know, we know that, you know, Barb made a lot of mistakes. You know, I recognize that, and now I accept it, and I try to do it without too much anger and emotion. But I'll also look at these 8 or 9 people for the state, and, you know, even his public defender, even Edelston and Brengan. I have real problems with them too, because they knew and they didn't defend Brendan at all, and they could have done it, and they didn't.
They could have.
And so, you know, I know the parent has, you know, the greater responsibility. I get that, but then when you have that many people, you know, from the legal side of it that really didn't do it, man, I tell you, that just I really have probably a bigger problem with that than I do with any other, because, I mean, Fox, the 2010 hearings, Fox should have corrected Brendan's. They should have ordered a new trial and thrown out all that crap that he allowed under Kaczynski.
Yep,
That somehow that Fallon was able to get in that partial phone call that had nothing to do with any kind of investigative or questioning for Brendan. None.
Yeah, but not only that, Jax. That phone call with the reporter, the interview with the reporter, where Brendan recanted everything and told her his truth, because it's his truth, the only truth that he knows, and he just blurts it out. He puts it out, and he's doing full sentences. He's coherent. He's, you know what I mean? His thought pattern is straight. It's focused. It's on point when he's talking to her, because that's his truth. And Kaczynski should have used that fucking phone call, in my opinion, to help Brendan, and he never.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree.
Every time Brendan told the truth, he was told he was a liar.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, these news outlets, including even, you know, Anjanette Levy, you know, they had been reporting, like I said, all this, you know, these co-defendants here, they did this and they did that, and they painted this horrible picture of Avery and Dassey, and then all of a sudden, you know, they got this interview from Brennan, and he's like, wait a minute, that's not really what happened. How could they?
Anjanette Levy's the same one that was sucking Kratz's dick at the 7th Circuit after the hearing, talking about his book and shit.
Yeah. So
and to the point now here, I just want to mention one last thing here. So all of the folks out there that want to get so angry at any of the family, I don't care who it is, it doesn't matter. You should take a look at law enforcement, the Department of Justice, and everyone else that failed Brendan and did these things to him.
That's what I'm saying, Sammy.
They had the upper hand.
Yes.
Start looking into this case with, you know, and I agree with Sapper Cop, because I've been guilty of it myself, letting my emotion override everything.
Yes.
And you can't do that. You have to look at this logically. Those people should never have been doing these things to this family, period, to this kid. So that was their responsibility to do what was proper, with proper protocols and proper reports. And that's what it boils down to here. We're really trying to focus on this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, you know, kind of my overarching point when I said all that was, it serves no purpose to attack the members of the family, you know, even when they come into these chats and stuff. If you want to ask questions, fine, but it's you know, this isn't a gladiator arena where you're going to come in and duke it out. You know, that serves, all that does is piss off both parties, and then nothing gets done. Right?
I'd like to say also that I think that the last thing on Barb's mind, even when he was in there being questioned, was that he was going to implicate himself into this and somehow become involved.
That's absolutely not.
It crossed her mind that could happen.
I mean, just to listen to Brendan talk in some of these calls, and even outside of that part of it, that's right. Brendan's just not like that. He's just a quiet, shy, introverted kid.
Really?
And they took.
Yeah, she probably thought, boy, my poor son. What's he going to talk about? Video games? I don't know.
I mean, at that point, Barb really wasn't sure if Stephen had done it.
No.
I think at that point she was feeling like he hadn't, but she wasn't 100% sure. And Brendan was home that day. So I just don't think she ever thought that he would in any way be implicated.
No way. But, she clearly didn't see how badly that they wanted to destroy or actually implicate him, but at least at minimum destroy him as an alibi. But then, I don't think, just like now, first time I saw ma'am and read through a lot of this, they didn't care. As long as they could wreck the depositions, which they did, and re-jail Avery, which they did. Whatever baggage came along with that, that's just collateral, and so be it.
Yep. Just extra.
And I think they could have puffed up their chest to Barb and said, "You don't need to be in here," And,
it's possible.
She just kind of cowered.
Yeah. Well, the kind of the question of understanding March 1st and kind of what they were doing in there leads me back to Fox Hills, because we still, at least as far as I know, up to now, we still don't know what happened at Fox Hills. Barb hasn't said, Brendan hasn't said, and there's obviously no recordings or reports about it.
That we know of.
The interesting thing is, they had separate rooms at Fox Hills. The boys had one and Barb had one.
Well, wasn't Brendan the only one up there?
No, Blaine was there. Blaine came later.
Okay.
Blaine was there too, because
they may have gone to the boys' room and Barb didn't even know it.
The following morning, I remember Blaine made a statement that Fassbender got in his face.
Barb swears there was no interview at Fox Hills.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard her say that, but obviously we know that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, what would even be the point in putting it at Fox Hills if they weren't going to question them, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, they said it was for Brendan's safety, for the other members of the family.
That's
you know what I mean? It's come on.
What a terrible. That's like talking about, they left Bear on the property for days because he was such a vicious dog. When they got 200 plus cops and firemen on the property and can't get the dog off, and dog handlers. But I
mean, it's not just that, Jax. I mean, you've got to remember, Barb has been going through this shit since she was a teenager, because they done it with Stephen, so she knows how nasty and how shady and how dirty the cops are. Because look at the amount of people that stood up for Stephen. First case.
It goes back to it goes back to mindset. What someone's feeling at the time when an event happens in their life. We can color this any which way you want, and you can say, "Oh, that I would never do that." I probably wouldn't either. I probably would stand and you just put a gun to my face, and I'm going to stand in front of you for my kids, no matter what. Yeah. But not everybody's mindset is there, and I get that too. There are a couple of questions here, and I see one. First, I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat that's been talking. I don't want to ignore anyone. Welcome, Travis. Thanks for coming. There was a question here I don't want to get back, but if that is the case, this is from Jennifer. Why didn't they just come forward to KZ? I have to know idea who killed TH. I have to know hard feelings toward the family. Just want the truth. Well, yeah, Jennifer, we're the same way. We just want the truth. It would, this Sawinski affidavit, I got to tell you, we've said it before, and we'll probably end up saying it again. If he indeed did see Bobby, if it was Bobby and some unknown person, I mean, God, just one more blow to that family. Not just the Dasseys, but the Averys too, and their friends and so forth.
Right. Well, Jax, if I may here, they
Yeah,
always
please.
are saying, well, Barb, get Bobby to talk, get Scott to talk. Well, first of all, we don't know if they did. Barb says that they have talked, and we don't know what that established, so if she's able to answer that and has answered that in many chats that they have already talked to KZ and that they don't know anymore, then maybe you should just accept that until later on. She's already asked your question, answered your questions.
Well, there you go. We don't know all of what KZ's maneuvers have been, and we certainly don't need to know, at least at this time, till she's able to get it back in court in front of, hopefully. So we don't know. There's just so many aspects of this case. It's not just that side of it. And thank you, Alice, for pointing that out.
That's right.
It's a really good thing. And again, back to these 2010 post-conviction hearings. If anybody hasn't read them, please do. We're going to be recording them all at a certain point in time. I know that they're already recording them. They're doing these podcasts. Becca and Alice and Linda, they're doing these podcasts about them, and they're really important because they're really driving down. Because I think sometimes you only get into a paragraph or two, right, Alice? Because it. Well, hell, when I read them, I got so damn mad. I was seeing red. Oh my God, the link.
Yeah.
You can just see the bullshit rolling on the page, Jax. You know what I mean? And you can see just how much that lane was railroaded. And that is a legal binding document. It is there in black and white. So you can argue until it's fucking blue in the face. It's not going to change anything. They railroaded that lane and they fucking let that lane down big time. Every one of them, for the fucking police at the bottom to the courts at the top, they let that lane down and you can see it.
Well, you can even connect it to
process, right?
You can connect it to all the emails between Kaczynski, O'Kelly, Bassbender, Kratz. You can see this chain of events that's working. The defense lawyer is working in behind the scenes with the state to try to get evidence on Stephen. And if Brendan implicates himself, so what? Really? Really? If that's not the way.
How? We're doing when we were reading the transcript for the interview at Crivets. I think it was Brendan and Wayne or Brian.
Yeah.
To me, that whole scenario was their get in. They knew how they could bend Brendan, what he says, but we think here, we think there. They went back to that office and they told Aspender and Liger that, listen, here, this is the one that you can get. You get this way, like this, get a wee bit on. There's the man, you'll manipulate him into how you want, and you'll get what you want. And that was what happened, and it came to Brendan, and that's when we got to Brendan.
You got really muffled there, Alice. We can't hardly hear you, but yeah. But Sapricop can probably attest more to this than the rest of it, because he's been a cop. Is that how much information would O'Neill and Baldwin have imparted in that report and say, this Brendan kid, he's pretty shy, withdrawn. We can kind of mess with him a little bit. We can get him to agree to. I don't know how much this stuff goes on.
It's pretty clear to me from kind of the sequence of events that they were looking for a kind of a patsy, and they started with every member of the family and failed until somebody got to talk to Brendan. And I don't know if it started with what Kayla put out, or whether it was after that first talk in the police cruiser. But at some point, somebody realized this is our linchpin. This is the one we can use. And I hate to put it this way, but they probably said it something like, this kid doesn't know any better. He'll do whatever we say and won't even realize it's happening. He's the one we should go after. I'm quite sure that's how it went. I know that when Wiegert and Fassbender pulled him into Fox Hills, and then later on on March 1st, knew exactly what they had, knew exactly what they were going to do, and probably had full approval to do it.
Oh, I completely agree with you there. I think
because of that interview in Crivets where they go,
I agree.
You have how many are you are there? There's Bobby, there's Blaine, there's you, and there's Brian. That's 5 brothers, right? And he's like, yes.
Yeah, sure, that's
brothers.
5. That's 5.
That's 3 brothers of yours, and you're
that was the
4th.
turning point.
Yeah.
And you're saying 5, and he's just nodding along like, whatever you say, officer.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jinx. That's exactly it. That's
that
when
was the
they
turning
got
point.
Brendan on the hook, and they knew that they could manipulate that lane in any way that they wanted, and that's exactly what they done.
So that goes back to, again, we have the family, and I get it. I get the anger, not standing in front of the train, and I'm past that now.
Yeah.
It upsets me that things happen the way they did, but this is what we have now, and we have to deal with what we have now, and let go of some of that emotion. I mean, just because it's destructive. We can't get to where we need to go. I agree with Saprica. I agree with what everybody said. I get it, but come on, just.
Yeah, I don't know what Brad's issue is. I'm not sure what triggered him to go off the way he's been going off lately. It's hard for me to say something, to him or to say he has no right to do it or anything like that, because I mean he's a member of the family, whether it's directly tied to Barb or not. He's kind of there, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's triggering him to do this. I know that there's definitely an animosity there between him and Barb, at least, and certainly Scott too, and I'm not sure what it stems from or how deep it goes or why, but that's something I try not to get in the middle of, because I don't know anything about any of them really outside of this case.
Right.
And I know for me, the reason I really have to try to stay emotionally out of it, especially when it comes to Brendan, is because the kind of person I am, my initial instinct when it comes to Brendan is to get a hold of O'Kelly, get a hold of Wiegert, Fassbender, put him in a room, close the door, and solve the problem.
Yeah, let's have a talk. I mean, it's bad enough, I get that the police, are really trying to get at something, but for his own defense attorney to be a part of it, man, I tell you, and the way that guy acted, oh my God, I tell you that I have so much, I won't say hatred because I hate few things in life, but it's really close to that for what he did.
Yeah, I would agree. Probably O'Kelly out of all of them, but certainly almost on the same level as Wiegert and Fassbender. Yeah,
absolutely.
And not just as a father or a soldier, but as a former cop, because you make me look bad by doing what you did because I wore a badge too, and that's one of the main reasons I would want to get a hold of those two, is say you fucking paint a very bad picture of law enforcement, and I'll be damned if I can let that stand.
Absolutely. Well, good conversations, good comments. Looks like going. Do we have any comments? Anybody been following along? I've tried to kind of look through here as we were talking, but any other questions or comments? I mean, we've talked about this before, and I'm sure it's going to be part of conversations, moving forward with open mics, because I'm not going to let it go. I know pretty much everyone here is not going to let it go. I will want to say what.
I almost want to think the story is there. It's right in front of us, but we can't see it.
No, there's been chunks that's been removed from our vision, or we never had it, And I'm going to say this about Brad. I don't really know the guy. I mean, I just know what little bit I've seen on Twitter here and there. But, for me personally, this is a family issue. It does not belong in our arena at all. This is a family issue. They need to be talking to a counselor and try to build some bridges and keep this, because this is, clearly to me, this goes back to relationships, family relationships. And it's not, it really doesn't have anything to do with Brendan per se or Stephen per se, and certainly not about what happened. So for it to enter into our world, I mean, I guess I just have a bigger problem with that. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's my feeling. And I just stayed away from it because I just do not think it belongs in, at least from my aspect of looking at these cases, because it actually makes things worse for all of them, in my opinion.
We're looking into wrongful convictions. That's what we need to be focusing on.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So
yeah, and one thing that I guess is a fear of mine, or causes me some definite consternation, is if a point is ever reached where Brendan gets out, whether it's by clemency or whether a miracle happens and he's exonerated, is he really going to be put back right into the middle of all of that crap?
Exactly.
Me personally, I don't think Brendan should be going back into that environment. Brendan should be going somewhere else with someone else.
Yeah, not to take
put it that way.
Well, not to take away from his family, because I think they have to be a part of it, but he needs others around him to help guide him, to help point him in.
There's adult advocacy agencies that could help, and I think in the position he's in, if he was to be released, there's a very big chance that he would step from a prison into that kind of an atmosphere where there's advocacy for him.
I think so too. Yeah,
well,
because
maybe somebody to help him get, SSI, because I really feel he could get SSI.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I've dealt with these advocacy groups and CPS and all those kind of agencies, and to me, they all fall crazily short of actually helping anyone from my perspective. Especially CPS. CPS is about the most useless organization or agency that probably ever existed. I think they killed more kids than.
How many bad stories have we seen about that cyber cop? Oh my God.
Gabrielle Fernandez.
Oh my God, that was horrible.
His name was.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was a horrible documentary.
How mad were you after that one? Because I can tell you, I saw complete red.
Yeah. Well, let's just say I didn't finish the documentary.
Failed.
But that's kind of makes my point. What I just said is I don't trust a lot of these agencies to really do what's best for that person. But
they're connected. I don't know what that OBS reconnecting successful. Okay, so disconnected and reconnected. Hopefully we didn't fall out.
No, it must have been simultaneous because you didn't go out for very long.
Okay, good. But anyway,
I just want to say we got a comment on here from James Regal, and he says cops saying they did not know that Brendan was mentally challenged tells me that the cops were mentally challenged. Ditto. I agree.
Yeah, that's a 5-star comment.
Yep. We agree, James. We agree.
Yep. All right, guys, we're pushing a little over 2.5 hours. It's a great conversation. Good. Thank you. Thank you for looking at that. Great conversations, great comments. Hopefully we covered a lot of ground and we buried the blood vial thing. Thank you, Dr. Silkman. So that's off my radar. Good conversation about Brendan and the family, and hopefully everybody can remain positive. Let's stay after as much bias as we can remove from it, the better off we all are. I wholeheartedly agree. Susan, you have a comment?
Don't think so, Jack.
Oh, you were unmuted. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. That's okay.
Mute yourself.
If there's nothing else, I mean, I don't want to hold everybody. It's late for our European friends that have been here. Alice, you're such a trooper, and Go, and everybody from the other side of the pond for us, and really early for our Australian friends. So I don't want to keep everybody here all day and all night. Been a good conversation.
Sean was awfully quiet during all this.
I know. I mean, considering we're talking about Brendan, he's probably sitting there seething.
Mine's fucking changed, isn't it?
He's saving it for Saturday morning.
Speaking of that, let's go down the list here. Anybody got anything coming up before we can plug in before we get out of here? Linda?
We've got Just Rhonda and the Daniel Holtzclaw case on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Brendan talks on the Friday.
Yep.
Up to Ken on the Saturday, and
We'll be back to we'll be back to regular for the. I didn't feel that well this past Sunday. The reason I delayed it for a couple of days. I don't know what it was, but whatever, it's passed. We'll be back to our regular Sunday afternoon thing this coming Sunday. So
yeah, and join me and Sean for what is it? Nails on the chalkboard. Yeah.
What grinds your gears?
No, I think we're just calling it Nails on the Chalkboard.
God, I hate that. You know, some people can actually tolerate that, but I cannot. I cannot tolerate that at all.
Yeah, I guess that's the point. But anyway, that's on Saturday mornings at 11, so join me and the Wizard for that, too.
Sweet. That works out right after the reading with Uncle Ken. Perfect. Okay. Well, I guess if anybody else haven't had anything, then I'll wrap up here. If not,
well, join us on Foul Play for Saturday morning for Uncle Ken, and then Sundays for open mic, and visit the library, and come on in the Discord and enjoy all of our talking.
Well, you said pretty much what I was going to say.
Hit the like button and subscribe.
Well, that too. Yeah, if you like what we've done.
It's been one of those evenings where everyone's been taking the words out of everyone else's mouth, so it's all been done. There's nothing left for me to say.
Well,
that can't possibly be the case, Sean.
I bet Saturday morning you'll have plenty to say, or Saturday afternoon for you. I'm betting. So, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Aside from the one document that we just recently got for the auto trader for Kathy Williford showing there, that I'll get that added to the description a little bit later. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, the great conversations and so forth, and keep pushing.
I want to thank all of you who are killing it on these FOIA requests. I don't know how you guys are doing it, but holy crap.
Yeah, we got some good ones out there that really continue to pour over.
Lots of suggestions.
And more to come, too.
Lots of suggestions and lots of notes.
Yeah, and a lot of people that are, willing to,
volunteer theirs, yes.
Yeah, write the FOIAs out. Yeah. Their time, their money, I mean, a lot of these are not really that expensive. Some are, relatively cheap. Well, I mean, except for the one that Gov, went after. Right, Gov?
Well, no, doing a, writing these FOIA requests, I know is an art and a trial.
It can be, yeah, because
it's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, but if you get denied and they give you the reason, sometimes you can rewrite it a different way. Henbury has taught at least me that rewording it to a different way can often get you success. So,
well, I learned that from my first FOIA with regards to the warrants served at the Dassey residence, and what it's taught me is it's all about the language that you use in the request.
It is.
And the specificity that you state in the request, and anything outside of that, forget it. So you've got to be very careful about how you word your request so that it covers everything, removing from them the opportunity to withhold anything. So you've got to be really, really clever about just how you put your request together and make sure you cover all your bases, because you don't want to be doing it again and again and again.
And don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged if you get a if you get a denial. Don't get discouraged.
Absolutely. So I should be trying that one again, Jack.
They want to beat you into submission until you give up.
Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, I'm in the midst of one right now that's being painful, but we'll see how that gets resolved. Hopefully, there's some success, because this goes back to last year, and it's just Oh, it's just crazy. We'll talk about that at a different time, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different twist there, but if there's nothing else, like everybody here on Discord for coming, our newest member, Londoner, for coming in, and we're always it is an open mic. If you want to come in and chat, you got something you want to talk about, come in and tell us about it. And if we can get it out there and we can do it civilly and keep our head about us, we'll do it. I'm not sure what we'll do next week. I have planned for the week after with Rhonda. We're going to do a presentation for Daniel, and hopefully we can have a really good response there and get that out push that a little bit more. Daniel's case really needs Making a Murderer type documentary to really expose. There's just so much so much wrong with that case. It's just mind blowing. And then now, of course, we have the judge that's resigned, and now we've also found out the AG's now resigned because he's having an affair. It's just crazy.
Well, and paperwork's a problem too.
That is a problem. The transcripts, that is a huge
and then
problem.
Nobody has the expense to pay for them to get them. And
yep, it's thousands of dollars.
Those that have them can't be shared, and
right, because of the NDA. Yep.
Yeah.
So that is another problem. So hurdles to cross. So we'll see where this other stuff, this more recent stuff leads to. But if that's it, then I'll say appreciate you coming, and this has been a Foul Play production.